there's always the beach. That might satisfy some people, but let's face it, why do you come to Florida in March? You come for baseball, and baseball has returned to Clover Park in Port St. Lucie. The Mets have an ace to go with an ace. They've got returning stars hoping to find better days. They've got their big slugger who has survived the worst of his days. They've got the joy at shortstop, and they've got a veteran new manager overseeing it all. At Clover Park in Port St. Lucie, Florida, the New York Mets play the St. Louis Cardinals. And a pleasant good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Port St. Lucie. Better late than never. Gary Cohen, Ron Darling, Keith Hernandez with you today for the Mets' first home exhibition game as they take on the St. Louis Cardinals. You know, the Mets have been in a stretch of 5 straight years without a postseason, and they have gone a long way toward trying to change things around. A lot of veteran talent has been brought in. Maybe most importantly, a veteran manager in Buck Showalter who has seen and done everything.
Well, that was what I was most concerned about in the offseason, who was going to be the managerial choice. And the Mets, after 3 years of really experimentation, have now gone to the veteran Buck Showalter, who has managed in New York, who has managed in the American League, managed in the National League, been in postseason. And I was here on Monday, Gary, Ron, and Buck took me around the stadiums and introduced me to the players in the clubhouse, all the new renovations here in the ballpark. It's a big major league facility now. And I just sensed a different air of people are more on point, professional. Spring training every year, it's very regimented. But I just sensed a little more that this team is really, really on point and feels they got a chance to win.
And I always thought you needed no introduction. It's not just the manager who changes the culture, it's the players in the clubhouse as well. And nobody does that more effectively than the heralded right-hander Max Scherzer.
Keith, if you're talking about professionalism, you're talking about one of the best. I'll tell you, I'm not shocked by much anymore. I was shocked when I heard the Mets had signed Max Scherzer and that he now compliments the ace Jacob deGrom, what he's done in his career. 8 top 5 in the Cy Young, including 3 Cy Youngs, 190 wins, 93 wins over 500. He'll get his 200th win in a Mets uniform.
Quite a 1-2 punch the Mets will be throwing out there this year with deGrom on opening day and Scherzer right behind him. Today it's the Mets and the St. Louis Cardinals, their first home exhibition game. All the action coming your way on SNY. New York Mets baseball on SNY is brought to you by Citi, proud partner of the New York Mets. By Cadillac. Cadillac dealers salute those who are writing bold new chapters in women's history today. Visit your Tri-State Cadillac dealer today. And by Delta, the official airline of the New York Mets. Mets 2022 single game tickets are on sale now. Go to Mets.com/tickets today. Those are the pitchers scheduled to hurl for the Mets this afternoon. David Peterson trying to come back from an injury-plagued 2021. Tyler McGill, who arrived on the scene last year. Drew Smith trying to fight for a spot in the bullpen, as is Sean Reed Foley. They will all be pitching for the Mets this afternoon on an 82-degree afternoon. Buck Showalter and the Mets ready to face the Cardinals. First pitch is coming up. Hey, it's the first starting lineup of the season, brought to you by Toyota, and it's a real lineup for the Cardinals. No Yadi Molina, he has yet to report to camp, but otherwise this is pretty much the opening day group for the St. Louis Cardinals. Tommy Edman leading off, Goldschmidt and Arenado, the big boppers. So it'll be a test for David Peterson as he takes on a real lineup that's playing their second exhibition game. They beat the Nationals last night. Something happened in the first inning of that game I don't know that I've ever seen before. 3 left-hand hitters in the first inning all hit home runs to left field.
Whoa. Wind blowing out?
Yeah, a little bit. Luis Guillorme, Dom Smith, Nick Palmer were the 3 left-hand hitters.
That was interesting. Francisco Lindor led the team out there. As David Peterson, a lost year last year, strained his oblique, and then while he was on the IL, I heard a pop in his foot while he was just walking in the clubhouse. So an injury-plagued year for David, who came up in 2020 and had an outstanding year.
And your Metropolitan defense brought to you by Delta. Pete Alonso, of course, at first. McNeil at second base. Looks like he's going to get the lion's share of second base. Lindor, of course, 2-time Gold Glover. There's Pete. Escobar at third. One of these guys that acquired as a free agent. He'll be the third baseman. Canha from Oakland. Excuse me. He is going to be a corner outfielder. It's a lot of new additions to this ball club.
Brandon Nimmo and Starling Marte. No decision yet as to who's going to be the primary center fielder. Marte is still a few days away from playing. He's been dealing with a sore oblique. Nimmo's a little younger. His defensive metrics certainly improved last year. There's Travis Jankowski, the Stony Brook product. Actually, that's Mark Canha in left field. Eventually, we'll show you Jankowski.
Unless things have changed, and I know Brandon did a great job in center field last year, but the last time I watched him play a lot, Marte was a game changer in center field. It'll be interesting if those metrics have changed.
Well, and that's something that you're going to have to keep an eye on. The Mets brought in an incredible group of quality people, right? You're talking about Scherzer and Escobar and Canha and Marte and Ottavino and Bassett, all incredible quality people, but they're all older players. And this is something that's going to have to be a theme for this team over the course of the season. How do you get the most out of players who are, well, 33 and older without wearing them down? And that's where depth will play a big piece.
Well, the big key into today's players are always in top shape. But this is a veteran ball club, and you got a shortened spring training, and health is the most important thing.
Peterson's first pitch to Tommy Edman is outside, and we're underway. Edman had more at bats than any player in the National League last year, 641 of them. He was moved around over the course of his career, but now has found a home at second base.
In fact, they made room for him by getting rid of Colton Wong or not signing him, so that opened that second base spot.
And they figured that they were sacrificing defense to do that. So what does Tommy Edman do? He goes out and wins a Gold Glove. Popped up on the right side. Pete coming toward the tarp, and just enough room to make the grab, and that's the first out of the day.
Well, Pete negotiating the tarp there. Very nicely done. I like the lacing on that glove. That's beautiful.
We were talking to Pete before the game. He was showing us that glove.
It's a big league glove right there.
Pete has reiterated that he plans to win a Gold Glove one of these days.
Love it.
It's going to have some pretty hefty competition now in the National League, with Matt Olson now having moved over to play for the Braves.
If he gets one, he and Hernandez will have 12 between them.
And you've also got the Cardinal first baseman with 4 and Paul Goldschmidt,
who stands in the batter's box now. Goldschmidt now in his 4th year with St. Louis. That's hard to believe.
That doesn't seem like he's been there that long.
31 home runs, 99 RBIs last year for Goldschmidt. Finished 6th in the MVP balloting last year.
Scored over 100 runs.
Old foul. Goldschmidt always in that group at the top of the MVP balloting. He's never won one, but he's come awfully close.
One of the few ball players born in the state of Delaware, right? Not that many. Delano DeShields, I remember when I played. Ian Snell was a Pirate pitcher. He was from Delaware.
And Goldschmidt's just really not only a great fielder, a great all-around player, but he's a smart player as well. Stole 12 bases last year. Wasn't caught once.
Peterson misses low and in. It's 3-2. Tyler O'Neill waiting on deck. It is awfully unusual in spring training to see a team bring this regular a lineup to a road game. But that's the nature of the shortened spring.
Well, you know, Gary, this would have been on a regular spring training. It would have been the 23rd game of spring training.
Here's Ollie Marmol in his first year as the Cardinals skipper, took over for Mike Schilt, who shockingly was let go at the end of last season. Difference of opinion between Schilt and the front office about some issues. And there's ball 4 to Goldschmidt. I mean, Schilt had been so successful over his relatively brief tenure in St. Louis. I think it really knocked everybody's socks off that he was let go.
Third in the manager of the year voting last year. What manager gets released or expunged after a 17-game winning streak in September?
17-game winning streak to get them into the postseason. Yep. They came out of nowhere and won 90 games. There's Tyler O'Neill. O'Neill had a great year last year, finished 8th in the MVP balloting. The human muscle takes a strike, nothing in one. They were 8 games out of the second wild card right before the trading deadline, and they made the deals for John Lester and Jay Happ, and everybody was saying, what are you doing? You're out of it. Why are you trading for veteran pitchers? But it turned out to work. Toward the middle and just past the dive of Lindor, a base hit. Goldschmidt will go first to third. And so Tyler O'Neill able to find a hole. And the Cardinals have first and third and 1 out.
Nice base running by Goldschmidt. Aggressive base running, taking the extra base. And you see the shift is on, and he found the hole.
So now Nolan Arenado in his second season with the Cardinals, perennially among the National League RBI leaders. Drove in 105 last year, and he gets an immediate RBI opportunity.
It's hit 34 home runs. That tied for the team lead with Tyler O'Neill at 34. Led the team in RBI.
This was a very aggressive Cardinals offense last year, and a half swing on a slider, and he went around. 0-1. They were second to last in the National League in walks last year, but they hit 198 home runs, and makes up for a lot. David Peterson competing for a depth spot in the Mets rotation with the acquisition of Chris Bassett that as of now leaves him on the outside looking in. Good changeup by Peterson. It's 0-2.
He's in a precarious spot because of that. Provides that depth as a starting pitcher. They don't really have traditional long men like they used to. But there is a small opening because of the departure of Aaron Loop that a left-handed reliever out of the bullpen. Maybe he gets a look that way.
But would you want to do that with Peterson at this point in his development?
Only if he has one of those great spring trainings and you can't let him go.
Yeah, I think that he and if everybody in the rotation is healthy, I think he and Tyler McGill go to AAA and they stay ready because, you know, as we've found out way too often over the last few years, you need 8, 9, 10, 11 starters to get you through a season.
It's hard to come to a camp, though, and feel like you're going to AAA.
Good off-speed pitch, and he gets Arenado for the second out. So Peterson facing a first and third and 1 out situation. Didn't throw him a fastball that entire at bat.
You know, there's a proliferation of strikeouts in the game, but you still got to get him when you need him, and he did there.
So too away now Dylan Carlson, the young right fielder. Last year as a rookie hit .266 with 18 home runs, finished third in the Rookie of the Year balloting. So many things went right for the Cardinals last year. I mean, clearly they were the best defensive team we've seen in the National League in a long time, which was fairly stunning because a couple of years before that they had been one of the worst fielding teams in the National League.
Jonathan India, of course, won the award. Trevor Rogers, we saw plenty of. What an outstanding year that he had, the left-hander from the Marlins.
If Rogers had stayed healthy all year, I think he might have had a chance to beat out India. But India was there from day one till the end of the season and just had a really good year for the Reds. Might be the last man left standing in Cincinnati.
Dylan Carlson reminds me a little of a young Lance Berkman. Now, I know Lance Berkman was one of the outstanding hitters of his age group, but Carlson's like that to me.
David Peterson, now 26 years old, First-round draft pick by the Mets in 2017 out of the University of Oregon. Behind on Carlson 2-0. And that's rocketed into deep left field. Forget that. That's way out of here. Carlson mashes one for a 3-run homer, and St. Louis leads 3-0.
Did that hit the back of the fence of the other field?
I believe it did. I saw a little ripple in that fabric fence. That's got to be 450 feet. So Carlson clobbers one, and it's 3-0 St. Louis.
Well, that looks like a sinker that didn't sink, and right out over the plate, a little below the belt. I have no doubt about that.
Canada didn't even really give it a courtesy run, like one step and a look. Is a courtesy run more important in the regular season or in spring training? As Harrison Bader chopping one out to short, and Lindor makes the running throw, and the Durbin scoop beautifully by the future Gold Glover Pete Alonso.
Give it to me in spring training and the regular season. I need it both times.
You need it in the spring when you're trying to make the team. First inning by Pete Alonso at first base.
Well, Pete working from the bottom up, and that's the key when you're doing the scoops. It's easier to work from the ground up and go get it. See how he extended his arm towards the ball. Get that thing as fast, that ball as fast as you can, the shortest hop possible. Pete's a very good scooper.
Here at Geico Mets starting lineup. No Starling Marte. He's dealing with a bit of an oblique issue. Otherwise, a lineup that looks a lot like it might look on opening day for the Mets. Buck Showalter says he's tooling around with a bunch of different lineups this spring. Not committing to anything yet. Brandon Nimmo leads off and takes a strike from Miles Michaelis.
That's Michaelis's numbers. Only made 9 starts last year. Had flexor tendon surgery in 2020 after coming off that big year in 2019 when he went 18-4.
So the bottom line is he's made 9 starts in the last 2 years, and they really need him right now because their ace Jack Flaherty is going to be set back with some shoulder issues, and the starting rotation is certainly a question mark for the Cardinals. Brandon Nimmo played only 92 games last year. Hand injury, hamstring injury, but when he played, he did what Nimmo does. On base percentage over 400. And you would think that he would be the natural guy to lead off, but Marte gives you an element that Nimmo doesn't, and that's the ability to steal a base. So that's going to be at least a question in Buck's mind.
Well, led the league in stolen bases in Marte. Also, he presents a lot more power from that leadoff spot than Nimmo.
You know, talking to Brandon a few days ago, he said that he has made a conscious effort to increase his speed. And in fact, if you look at the metrics, he's about a foot per second faster last year than he was the year before. Done a lot of work with the sports science people to try and figure out how to increase his speed.
I thought you would say Usain Bolt was helping him.
Well, there is that too. Nimmo strikes out for the first out. You haven't been around long enough for to remember Mackie Shulstone trying to teach the Mets how to run.
That's right.
The Cardinal defense brought to you by HSS. And folks, this may take around 6 months to get through. You've got Arenado at third with 9 Gold Gloves, 5 platinum. Goldschmidt over at first with 4. Tommy Edman won his first Gold Glove. Tyler O'Neill in left field, 2 Gold Gloves. Harrison Bader, a Gold Glove last year, his first. And then Yadier Molina is not here. He has 9. This is quite a defensive ball club.
All right, the Lindor at bat is over. So offer to Goldschmidt. There are 2. And I was going to ask you before, Keith, when it's the middle of the winter and you're sitting out on your porch in your beautiful palatial residence down in in Jupiter, are you saying to yourself, from the ground up,
baseball is the last thing on my mind. Sorry, folks. I do not live, eat, and sleep baseball like when I played. But I always like to watch a good fielding first baseman, and we certainly have one out there in Paul Goldschmidt today.
I think you flowed so naturally into that rhythm of from the ground up. I just felt as though you had been rehearsing. Here's Jeff McNeil hitting third in the order.
It's second nature to me.
There are so many Mets who underperformed offensively last year, whether it's Dom Smith or Francisco Lindor. But Jeff McNeil, to me, provides the biggest conundrum about whether he can bounce back to where he was a couple of years ago.
I just feel that, Jeff, that second half of the year, what was it, 2 years ago, Gary? We hit the, 17 home runs in the second half?
Yep.
I think that his swing, he altered his swing. He was too much of an uppercut, and it made him vulnerable up and in. And I'll be very interested to see if he's made any adjustments just to try to level off a little more, because he is a solid line drive hitter. He can hit. And I like him in the 3-hole if he's a line drive hitter and a doubles hitter.
OPS in 2019 was 916. 2020 still a respectable 836. Last year 679. Just a completely different player. Curveball, good one by Michaelis to strike out McNeil, and so Michaelis has himself a 1-2-3 over an inning. 3-0 Cards after 1. Paul DeJong leads off the second inning. This is spring training, so DeJong's at bats will not count against his career numbers against the Mets, which are just phenomenal.
I remember that series in St. Louis, Gary. That phenomenal series.
However, last year, DeJong lost his job at shortstop coming down the stretch of the season to young Edmundo Sosa, who's standing on deck DHing today. So that's going to be a battle this spring. They fully expect DeJong to claim that job back. That's driven out to right field, chasing Jankowski back, and that's the first out. But Sosa was so good defensively, at least up until that wild card game when he really had a rough afternoon. That if DeJong doesn't hit the way he did a couple of years ago, Sosa might well win the job again.
Well, you certainly get an uptick from Sosa as far as range is concerned, but he also hit coming down the stretch.
And the DH this year, it creates another spot in the lineup.
Well, that's what the Washington Nationals were thinking when they signed Nelson Cruz.
Well, what about?
They also needed some protection for that great Soto.
The Phillies signing Schwarber.
Well, I think they were intending for Schwarber to play the outfield until they then went and signed Nick Castellanos. So that puts Castellanos in the outfield and probably makes Schwarber a full-time DH. But
yes.
The Phillies, any way you slice it, once you get past Bryce Harper and JT Realmuto, they don't have anybody who's a plus defender on that team.
Well, they've always not been a good defensive team, Gary.
Well, they may be worse this year. That's it right over the bag. A base hit for Sosa. And he'll stop right there at first as Jankowski gets to it quickly. It was a fascinating offseason. Of course, the biggest surprise was Freddie Freeman not re-signing with the Braves. And then they wind up giving Matt Olson about the same contract they probably would have given Freddie after they made the trade with Oakland to get him.
And Olson younger than Freddie and Gold Glover. Both guys are Gold Glove.
Do you guys have any insight as to how it happened that the Braves let Freddie Freeman go?
I think they made a cost-benefit analysis, Ron, don't you?
Well, there's 4 years difference in ages of Olson and Freeman.
Andrew Kinzer hits one to center field.
I will say that it wasn't. I mean, it was since Albert Pujols left the Cardinals when I said to myself, there's no way he's going to wear another uniform, and he did. I said the same thing about Freddie Freeman. I just didn't see it happening, and I was wrong.
Do you think that when you win a World Series, it's easier somehow to say goodbye to a franchise player like that?
I don't think it's ever easy to say goodbye. You could tell by Anthopoulos and the emotion he showed when he had to have the press conference about it. But I just think the longer it went, the more animosity on both sides.
I mean, it was shocking all of last year that they never got it done. But you can certainly, and I agree with Keith, I think you can make the case that for the long run that Olson might be the better find. He's a better fielder. He's a younger player. He's maybe not quite be the hitter that Freeman is, but he's certainly a pretty good replica.
He's come off his best year with the Oakland A's. And he's also a Georgia kid, and Atlanta loves to get their homegrown people.
Right. Also, you know, you assess a guy coming from Oakland with all that foul territory. you may get a few extra at bats to pick up hits on balls that would be caught in Oakland when you play somewhere else.
It's not diminished Freeman, though. One of the big reasons they won a world championship is because what he provided for that team, not only as a ball player, but he went to the post every day. So that made Albies go to the post every day. It made Acuna, when he was in there, go to the post every day. Swanson. I mean, he was so important for that ball club. That's going to take some getting used to. And Olsen, it's not like it's easy. He's going to go in there and have to replace him.
Yeah.
I always felt, Gary, that when you win a world championship, give that team a chance to repeat. Don't do anything to it. Give it another year to repeat.
But think about it this way. What did the Phillies do after they won the World Series? They kept bringing those guys back, hoping for a second round, and they waited too long. Yeah. So, there are arguments to be made both ways. I just think, the Braves were so brilliant last year when Acuna went down to bring in guys like Eddie Rosario and Jorge Soler and John Peterson. They brought Rosario back for this
Adam
year.
Duvall.
Yeah, the other guys have moved on, but I mean, Rosario, can you have a better postseason than he had?
Yeah.
3-2 to Edman, and he chops one toward Lindor, gets it before the second hop, and throws him out to end the inning. Better inning for David Peterson, a hit and one left. Middle of the second, 3-0 Cards. Pete Alonso leads off the home second inning for New York, coming off a 37 home run season last year, and he drills one foul, and we're going to send it down to the Mets dugout where Steve Gelbs is standing by with the Mets manager Buck Showalter, presented by Citi. Steve.
Gary, thanks a lot. Buck, thought we might have a line drive double right there from our vantage point, but we appreciate you giving us a couple of minutes.
Hey, we score a couple runs here. You're going to stay here. We're going to stay on the air the rest of the time.
We'll do a whole 9-inning interview. Okay, so I got to get some questions in the back of my mind just in case. How's it been for you, though, Buck? Obviously, this isn't your first rodeo with the new organization, but how's it been here this first week, shortened camp, getting to know all the guys and get your feet wet here?
Yeah, it is what it is. That there's not 29 other clubs that get 2 extra weeks. We're all under the same microscope, so to speak. It's a ball. Sorry, I'm a little distracted here, but you get after it every day. I haven't had time to think nostalgically or any of that stuff. I've got a lot of people depending on me and the staff in the front office to do something that's very important to our fans.
I know this isn't the first time you've dealt with a shortened spring. You did it in '95 as well.
Times. I was thinking the other day we had another work stoppage too, so the hope is that we don't ever have one again.
What is the most important aspect of trying to get a group together, and not only from your perspective getting to know the guys, but getting a cohesive unit?
You asked a question. It was
in this short period of time.
I think that just basically don't go too fast, too quick. The health factor and understanding where the finish line is. It's because the way our guys are wired, I've been so impressed with. I asked a couple of them. I said, "Hey, is this because of the shorten or the sense of urgency they have?" And the guys have been here before, so this is a little different. And attaboy! I don't know, where were we at?
You talked about how impressed you've been. Anybody in particular that stood out to you, Buck, so far? You want to tell us what that sign was?
For Pete, nothing. But it's like spring training. Joey and I are getting to know the flow. 99% of everything. Who knows? But just the flow of, we give a lot of signs to the first base coach, the stuff that we do or don't do. But I tell you, Robbie's been he's been impressive. Knock on wood.
How so?
Just the calmness of he and guys like Escobar create around him. And,
Buck, I've heard you say in the past that the hardest thing to do in sports is win when you're expected to win. This team is clearly expected to win. Why is that so difficult, and what do you have to watch for in those situations?
We play so many games. Usually it's over 200 count in spring training. I used to chuckle at a football coach, said they weren't ready to play this week. Really? Was that before or after your off week? But, and it's a separator here. Everybody's got expectations in our division. Billy and I were talking today. If you look at the National League East and the American League East, it's going to be a lot of fun this year for fans in our area. But this is hard to manage a game and talk at the same time. I don't think I've ever done this before.
I'll give you one more then, and then I'll let you get back to it.
It's a lot easier. That Ivory Tower is a lot easier than down here.
we talk, and you've been asked this question a bunch already about how much the game has changed since you first were a manager, how much the players have changed. But on the flip side, how much is it the same in some regards? What is the most, especially when connecting with the players, what's the most important thing you have to remember that has kind of spanned all these decades?
Well, you know, you can't force relationships, and it's one thing to have good people and good players. You know, I think our front office and ownership have really been on top of, okay, this guy's a good player, but he's really somebody that you want around every day, and Esky's a great example of that. I mean, there's one part of it is the skill level it takes to play here. And they're not all the same. Can you imagine how boring this would be? You know, the last thing anybody wants to do is suppress a personality or a, you know, but we're all different, but we're all trying to get to the same end game. But, you know, the more things change, the more they stay the same, and you never confuse change with a lack of respect for tradition, right?
Real quick, who had the better Seinfeld cameo, you or Keith?
That's right. Keith had one. He probably had more than me. I don't know about him. I'm still getting taxed on that stuff. So I think it cost, my wife said, about $19. So I said, hey, I saw you. I go, that's not good. Keith, which one was Keith? You notice I didn't do a second appearance because when Mr. Steinbrenner found out they were making fun of him, he embraced it later, remember?
That's right.
All right, on that note, we will let you get back to managing. Buck, thanks so much. Keith, do you still get taxed on that?
I certainly do.
Steve, I can't believe you didn't ask him about the cotton uniforms.
They wanted me to ask you about the cotton uniforms.
I tell you what, if we don't get off a good start, you'll see cotton in New York.
There you go, from the horse's mouth.
Oh, from one TV star back up to Keith.
Funny.
And Escobar goes down swinging for the second out. Third strikeout for Michaelis.
Back up to the ivory tower.
Well, you know, he came out of the ivory tower.
That's right.
It's one of the first things that Buck said to me this spring. You know, I've done this TV thing.
And he's good at it, too.
He was extremely
really
good at it. And, you know, having done that, and he could have continued and been successful and made plenty of money doing that. I asked him, how did you know you wanted to do this again? And he said, it's interesting you ask. He said, I went around and talked to Dusty Baker, talked to Tony La Russa, guys who, you know, have come back into the game at an advanced age. And he said, they said, you're going to love this. This is going to be great. That the game is turning right back in your direction. And he's right. Yes. Because we've had our revolution of people with no managerial experience and maybe some front office expertise going down into the dugout. And now the worm is turned back a little bit with the Brian Snickers and the Dusty Bakers, the Tony La Russas. The other thing that Buck said was that he asked Jim Leland, how do you know when it's time to stop? And Jim said, when the losses don't hurt as much as the wins exhilarate.
Yeah. That's right. Listen to that interview. Buck's got a little Stingalese in him.
Yeah.
Oh, certainly does.
He's going to be an absolute trip to be around.
Oh, yeah.
You know that, right?
Great sense of humor.
Bit of a low talker.
It's all right.
Well, I don't hear that well.
Oh, okay.
Kana tries to stay on the curveball, dumps it into shallow center, and that falls for a base hit. Hesitation by Alonso coming around second, but then it's bobbled by Bader, and Pete makes it safely. Nice job by Kana. He was fooled on that curveball, but got enough of it to dump it into center field.
Slow curve got him out in front. Look at the leg kick from Kana. And Bader, the Gold Glover, just can't get to it. Yeah, Bader picks this ball cleanly. He's got a chance to throw Pete out going to third.
Should have used his glove.
Yeah, he saw that Pete had hesitated, and that's why he tried to barehand it.
Oh, there's the index cards.
Bader won his first Gold Glove last year. Horace Mann product.
That's right.
Throw that in there for our producer Greg Picker, also a proud Horace Mann grad.
It's funny that Buck solicited some advice from Tony La Russa
because in 1995, in his year with the Yankees, he went after La Russa in a brawl that the Mets had against the Oakland A's. And to tell you how long Buck Showalter has been at this managing thing, I was still playing when he first started managing.
Those are your active wins leaders. La Russa lapping the field. James McCann takes outside, and it's 1-1. McCann, another guy looking to reclaim some offense. He wound up splitting time late last season with Tomas Nido, but Buck said yesterday he expects McCann to be his just about everyday catcher, which I thought was interesting.
Well, one thing about McCann that impressed me last year, and he struggled, and I really felt, Gary, you read a body language of an athlete when they're having a tough year. New ballpark, new fan base, New York. I think McCann lost his confidence. But one thing he didn't do all year long, it never affected his defense. He throws well, calls a good game, solid defender.
Well, he said it last spring, and he reiterated it this spring. He's got to hit the ball to right field. He got away from that last year, and it really messed up his season.
We were so impressed all spring training last year when we watched him do that over and over again.
Alonso at third, Canna at first with 2 out. And McCann breaks his bat, hits it through the hole into right, and that'll bring in a run. That time just serving the ball to right field to drive in the first Met run of the day to make it 3-1 St. Louis.
Breaking ball outside corner, big hole right there. And that's just off the end of the bat.
But the ability to hit a pitcher's pitch and drive in a run is doing it.
There's James Nail, the first man up in the Cardinal bullpen. It's fascinating to watch in these early spring games, and I say early in quotation marks because it's March the 20th, how much they're going to push the pitchers. You know, opening day is awfully close, April 7th. We've got about half as many exhibition games as we were supposed to, 15 instead of 30. So do you push your starting pitchers that first and second outing because they've been throwing on the side? Are they more advanced than they'd be on February 26th, or do you do it the way you would in an early game where they only go an inning or two?
Well, I think because of the lateness of spring training, most of the pitchers were pretty ramped up, right?
Yep.
So they came into camp ready to go. And I don't think anyone wants a repeat of what happened in 2020.
Travis Jankowski drives one to right, but right at Carlson, and that ends the inning. Let's get a run on McCann's RBI single and trail 3-1 after 2. Max Scherzer, a constant presence in the Mets clubhouse and on the backfields through the early part of this spring training. They had the quick transition from negotiator to mound ace, and he is every bit of that.
Yep. Boy, he had a big role, didn't he, in that executive committee?
Yes, he did. 37 years of age, and last year had a strong finish. I mean, had a great year, 15-4. But for the Dodgers, last 11 starts, he went 7-0 with a 1.98 earned run average.
Paul Goldschmidt leads off in the third and takes a strike from Peterson.
And he might have won the Cy Young last year if he didn't have 2 bad starts at the end for the Dodgers. One was in Colorado.
Very close race for that Cy Young, won by Corbin Burns. That's drilled to deep left center by Goldschmidt, and this one's going to sail out of here. 3-run homer by Carlson in the first. Now Goldschmidt, who hit 31 last year, a solo shot to start the third, and it's 4-1.
Very compact swing. Hardly any take back. Right down on the mid thigh, shoulder tucked, front shoulder, I should say. And that's right into his wheelhouse right there. That ball down in the strike zone.
There's Tyler O'Neill. And he takes a changeup outside. Whatever wind there is today is blowing in. So these home runs are well struck and not cheapies at all. Last year, Peterson gave up 11 home runs in 66 innings. It was not a good year for Peterson after a very impressive rookie outing in 2020. Made 15 starts before he got hurt last year. Better change up, and it's 2-1 to O'Neill. I'll never forget Peterson's debut, thrown into the fire at Fenway Park.
Boston, right?
And pitched great.
I think he only threw less than 80 pitches in 5 2/3 or something like that. It was a remarkable outing.
And low heartbeat, and just seemed to belong from the day he stepped on the mound. In the air to center, this one's playable for Nimmo. Gets turned around but finds it. And O'Neill retired, 1 out. What do you think about Nimmo and Marte in center field?
I feel that I haven't seen enough of Marte. I feel strongly that if Nimmo is going to be the corner outfielder, he's going to have to be in left field because he hasn't got the strong arm for a right fielder. You want your best arm out in right field. My feeling is if Marte can play and not be injured, he's the center fielder.
Well, Marte should be hopefully back on the field in a few days. Has not swung the bat though yet, coming back from that oblique. They're still confident he'll be ready for opening day, but you know, opening day comes quickly. It's only 18 days away.
They've got Canna in left field today because he's probably going to switch back and forth left and right and getting him some work in left field. But I think he's going to get the right field, predominantly the lion's share of the playing in right field.
Arenado off the end of the bat to center. And Nimmo another chance, 2 out. There is a wild card in all of this, and I hesitate to even bring it up because I don't really know what Billy Epler's thinking on it is. But the longer Michael Conforto stays out on the free agent market, might the Mets think about a reunion, if only for 1 year, to try and boost that outfield even more? I mean, he had a terrible year last year, but he was a fixture here for so long and had a great year in 2020. And it would be fascinating to me with the uptick in just the whole vibe of this place to see how Michael would fare if he were to return for 1 more year.
You know, the Mets, the last 2 seasons, you had the philosophy pulling and home runs. Then you had Chili Davis come in and emphasizing using both gaps, the opposite field. Chili goes down and you bring up the 2 young guys from the minor leagues, and they are of the philosophy of pull, home run, looking for the ball to drive. And I think it had an ill effect on Mike Conforto, and I really feel it had an ill effect on J.D. Davis.
And Jeff McNeil.
Yes.
Yep. Well, I think in Davis's case, and really in Dom's case too, those guys were hurt all year, and I think you give them a little bit of a pass.
They were hurt, but with Keith mentioning all those hitting coaches, a lot of voices Michael Conforto had to listen to in his time here. Well, this is the only problem for Conforto.
And it's become public too about how much the analytics people were in the room in hitters meetings, which obviously is something that's not going to happen anymore. I mean, the analytics are there to be used and filtered through the coaches, and that's the proper way, and I think Buck knows that better than anybody.
And I agree, and I've always felt, Gary, the most important coach is the pitching coach, because there's mechanics and all that. But in hitting, paralysis by over analysis. It's just like sometimes it's just best to go up there and see the ball and hit it, and don't be thinking about I'm looking for this little box. Or I'm 0-2. My gosh, battle. So I liked everything coming out of that Eric Chavez, the new hitting coach for the Mets. I liked everything he said in the paper thus far, and I've had a chance to talk with him. He's going to simplify things, get away from overthinking, see the ball and hit it.
And that backdoor slider just missed, and it's 3-2 to Cardinals.
I was thinking the only gamble for Conforto in this is if he came back you're getting closer to have another big year to get that big contract. What if you come here and you're a platoon? He could be a platoon player.
That could be he and Canna. Yeah, I could see that. Rolled over. In comes Lindor. Running throw. Low. And this one Alonso can't pull out of the dirt. Second low throw. Pete picked the first one perfectly. Unable to come up with this one. And Carlson is aboard with 2 out.
And I'll say one thing, Gary, here. This is the third ground ball, fourth ground ball where Lindor's come in on the run and throwing underhand. When you throw underhand, you get a rainbow over to you, and it has top spin. And that throw tends, and out goes the pitching coach there, Jeremy Hefner. But that ball, when it's underhand thrown, it tends to bounce higher off whether it's the grass or the dirt, particularly the dirt. It's a much tougher pick.
That's a good call, Keith.
That'll be an error charge to Lindor. Oh, did they put up a base hit?
And that's a tough. That's the in-between hop, and that's a tough one. That should not be a base hit, Gary. He's out by a mile.
Yeah, I agree with you. That should be an error.
So, you see how far that guy was out, like, what, 3 steps? So, I know Lindor comes in and charges, but maybe has time to come in and charge it. That's the right thing to do. But set yourself and make the good easy. It's your throw.
You're on fire today, by the way.
Am I?
You're on fire.
I feel tired.
That's why I feel like he's been practicing all winter.
I know.
I'm exhausted.
Here's Harrison Bader taking a changeup low and away. Bader grounded to short his first time up. There's nobody throwing yet in the Mets bullpen. That's a good sign. They are pushing these pitchers very early in these spring games with a view toward the calendar. Already 51 pitches for Peterson and nobody up throwing behind him. Another chance for Lindor, down to a knee, gets the force side retired. Goldschmidt's home run extends the Cardinals lead. They're up 4-1 in the third. Download the MLB app to get in-game video highlights, live pitch by pitch, breaking news, player updates, stat leaderboards, and more for your New York Mets. I love those photos they got in the concourse here of the older black and white photos. Somehow fused with the newer color photos. There's Drew Verhagen back from 2 years in Japan to pitch for the Cardinals. And Nimmo, first pitch swinging, lines one right to the shortstop DeYoung, playing in the shift. 1 pitch and 1 out.
I guess maybe you just need some Japanese experience to appear in this game for the Cardinals.
Yeah, Michaelis, who had come back from Japan, and now Verhagen, who spent 6 years with the Tigers before becoming a Nippon ham fighter.
And he was signed. He's probably not going to be a starting pitcher for this team. He'll be a guy out of the bullpen.
Although they're saying with Flaherty on the sidelines and a 5th starter job very much up for grabs that he might be a candidate for that role, at least for the short term. Lindor takes a fastball for a strike. Francisco grounded out his first time up.
There's a lot of pitchers on the free agency market. They could go out and get a veteran, fill that role for a month or so.
I have to say, this spring, since the lockout ended, has been one of the hardest to try and figure out what the heck is going on and who's going to which team. So let me ask you, who's still out there as a pitcher on the free agent market?
Well, a guy that they acquired late last year, Jay Happ, is out there. Junior Guerra is out there, a guy that was in their division with Milwaukee, who was kind of a reliever spot starter. But we've seen this free agent frenzy became a trading frenzy between the clubs. So, trades are always available as well.
Could they convince John Lester to unretire?
There you go.
I mean, Lester did a great job for them last year after he came over. That fastball just off the plate, 2-2.
Well, this is the first year, and you and I are both, I don't know, what would you call us? But you and I both have a free agent list.
The word is obsessive.
Okay, that's probably what it is. But you and I both have a free agent list, and we have it all written in.
Yours is typed up and so neat. I just scribbled this all down last night. Swing and a miss at the off-speed pitch.
There were so many free agents out there. I mean, it was just like the dam burst once the the agreement came. They came to an agreement on the basic agreement.
So Trevor Story signed today with the Red Sox to play second base,
Yeah.
right? Because Xander Bogaerts is the incumbent shortstop there. But last year the talk was about all the guys, the shortstops, who were going to become free agents. Did you have Corey Seager getting by far the biggest contract of all of them? He got 10 years, $325 million from Texas.
I did not.
Javi Baez went to Detroit, and
Wow. Chris Bryant to Colorado, that was a shocker to me. Colorado's just like.
how about Carlos Correa to Minnesota?
That's right.
I think that took everybody by surprise.
Yes, it sure did.
3-year contract where he can leave after this year and after the next year.
The Minnesota thing is so interesting, right? They traded Josh Donaldson to the Yankees. The Yankees picked up all of Donaldson's contract. The Twins got Gary Sanchez, who I think they like.
Yeah.
And it gave them enough money in their budget to sign Correa. And, you know, that American League Central is kind of there for the taking. Minnesota had a terrible year last year. And I know the White Sox are the ascendant power in that division, but they're used to winning in Minnesota, sometimes by hook or by crook. It looks like they've positioned themselves pretty well to make a comeback. McNeil flies one over toward the left field line, and O'Neill crosses the line. O'Neill retires McNeil, and the Mets are out 1-2-3 in the third. After 3 in Port St. Lucie. A lot of work to get in a short period of time. Outfield drills, Marcana. Pitcher's fielding practice. They never throw hard to the bases, Ronnie.
Whenever I see the rundowns, Ronnie, I think of
Mookie.
Mookie Wilson.
Yeah.
What year was it? What year was that, Gary?
Hit right in the face. 88.
88.
Yeah.
No, we went north without him.
That was the first year in Port St. Lucie, 1988.
Right.
Tyler McGill takes over the pitching as we go to the 4th inning. Paul DeYoung, the hitter for St. Louis.
McGill was so strong for the Mets early on. 18 starts last year, but just seemed to tire as the season went on.
Which made perfect sense when you looked at the number of innings he threw compared to what he had done previously. Out toward the right field corner, Jankowski, a long run, and it lands foul.
You know, I think we tended to forget last year that a lot of pitchers in 2020 didn't have any place to get any work.
Right.
Well, all players.
And even some who did. I mean, I'm thinking about Taijuan Walker and the great first half he had. He was an all-star. And then the dreadful second half that he had. It all kind of makes sense when you look at their innings totals from prior years. I mean, in Taijuan's case, because of Tommy John surgery, he had thrown only minimal innings the 3 years before.
Yeah, like 80 innings in 3 years.
Young hits one toward right center field. Jankowski with his speed, and he runs it down. That is Travis Jankowski's greatest asset. He can fly, and he made up ground in a hurry to get that sinking line drive to retire DeYoung. Nicely done.
Gets a good break on the ball, and this is just total athleticism right there. Diving, making a beautiful play on the backhand.
2 bullets by DeYoung to right field, and Jankowski in his first game in a Mets uniform comes up with a swoboda.
So you know the story on Travis Jankowski. He played at Stony Brook, led them to their first College World Series, coming out of nowhere, first team from the Northeast to make it in a couple of decades. And my friend Tom Chen was the sports information director in those days at Stony Brook. He's now at Seton Hall. And he's also a big Mets fan. And so for the last 10 years, he's been waiting for the day that the Mets finally got Travis Jankowski. And here he is, and he makes a stellar play first time we see him.
Gare, I hate to bring it up, but
yeah, go right ahead, Keith.
42 points out of Seton Hall.
Let me just put it this way.
How you do that?
I flew from Port St. Lucie. I drove to Miami, flew to Atlanta, then to Detroit, then to San Diego to get there. watched them lose by 27, got back on a plane, flew San Diego to Atlanta to Miami, where I lost my wallet. Yes, before driving back to Port St. Lucie. So let me just say that I showed up. Okay?
Okay.
All right.
And you also had a nice 5-mile run.
I did.
In San Diego.
It's always nice to be in San Diego, but I wasn't really there enough hours to fully appreciate it. I did have a really good burrito while I was there, though.
How can you lose the Costanza wallet, Gary? There's no chance.
You know, I'm going to turn 64 next month, and in the first 63, I never lost my wallet. This was a first for me. So.
Really?
Yeah.
Wait till you're 68.
Yeah, how many times will I lose it then? 3-2 to Edmundo Sosa, who had a base hit to right field his first time up. Now that's on the outside corner, strike 3 call. So Sosa's caught looking for the second out. But while Seton Hall might have flailed in their tournament appearance, there is a great story being written in Jersey City, because the St. Peter's Peacocks are pulling off the greatest Cinderella story in NCAA tournament history. You have to have been to the St. Peter's campus, seen Yanatelli Gym, to have an idea of just how not just unlikely but unfathomable it is that St. Peter's is going to be at the Sweet 16.
I mean, just thinking of the David Goliath situation that beat Kentucky, and I don't know what Kentucky spends on basketball per year, but it's a lot more than St. Peter's does. And that's just remarkable, and that they could pull it off and come up with 2 big games in a row.
Let me just put it this way. Calipari's assistants make at least 3 times what Shaheen Holloway makes as the head coach at St. Peter's.
You know what? What's great about these stories in March Madness is that these teams that pull off these Cinderella stories have these great coaches and have the great alumni and have those kids jumping up in the gym, and it's just great.
Well, Shaheen's a great friend, and just he was a fabulous player, and he is turning into a superstar coach. And I love they asked him a question last night. Were you worried about Murray State doing blah blah blah? He said, kids are from New Jersey, New York City. They're not afraid of anything.
That's right. And this is the one year you don't have to worry about anybody coming up to you and talking about how great their bracket is, because everyone's bracket has been broken.
Nobody's got anything intact anymore. If they did, they were just throwing darts.
Yeah.
Andrew Kisner flied out to center field his first time up. And McGill tries to get him with a slider, but could not tempt him enough, and it's 3-2.
Who do you like, Gary? Now we're down to the Sweet 16. Who do you like to go to the Final Four?
You know, I got to watch Arizona in person the other night. They're pretty formidable.
Yeah.
I really like Arizona. But, you know, Gonzaga's probably the best team, and they've got the unicorn. I mean, Chet Holmgren is unlike any player I've ever seen before. Kisner on with a 2-out walk. I mean, Holmgren, 7'1", bringing the ball up the court. You know, they got the other big guy, Drew Timme, who had the big game last night, and then, you know, cursed on national television.
Oh, that happens.
It does.
We do it on air here.
Yeah, well, not on purpose. Over exuberance.
A little eager.
So McGill, after retiring the first 2, issues a 2-out walk, and now Tommy Edman up for the 3rd time. He's fouled out and grounded out. Tyler McGill, now 26 years old. Brother Trevor has signed on with the Twins after pitching last year for the Cubs. In fact, Trevor, if memory serves, made his debut against the Mets.
Oh, yeah.
Good changeup by McGill, and it's 1-1. I think he pitched in relief against the Mets at Citi Field, and then a couple of weeks later, Tyler was in the big leagues.
And you told me today, the TV probably doesn't do it enough justice, how big an athlete McGill is.
He's enormous. Because, you know, we were not allowed in the clubhouses the last couple of years. So this has been a nice treat to get back in the clubhouse this spring.
I didn't realize how tall Miguel Castro is. I mean, he is like 6'4".
He is, but he's slender. But
yes.
McGill, nobody is Frank Howard. But he reminds me of that kind of, you stand next to him and it's like you're standing next to a mountain.
I was thinking that one reminds me of our old teammate Eddie Lynch, who was always the tallest One of the tallest, anyway, players in our day. This is Lynchy, about 6'6", 6'7"? 6'6".
Yeah, I ran into him one time on a ground ball between first and home on the grass, and I ran into him, and I went down like ran into a brick wall.
You were like Josh Reddick against Pete Alonso.
Right. I was quite embarrassed.
It's interesting to see these players, the lineups, to see how many at-bats these players are getting. Third time around for Edmund Goldschmidt. That would never happen this early in spring.
This is their second exhibition game. Little flare, and on the right side is McNeil to pull it in. And that retires the side. A walk and one left for McGill in his first inning. Still 4-1.
I remember that boat.
What are those called? Cigarette boats?
How come the front of the boat never touches the water?
I have no idea about boats.
It's like doing a wheelie. It looks like fun, I guess. Maybe not environmentally friendly, but fun nonetheless. Pete Alonso leads off in the home fourth against Drew Verhagen, who starts his second inning of relief. And Pete swings it up and in fastball, 0-1. Pete drew a walk, scored the first Med run. You'd have to say, if you look back on the Mets' offensive season last year, they finished 13th in the league in runs scored and 12th in home runs, that Pete was really the only guy among the full-time players who held up his end. Hit 262, 37 homers, 94 RBIs, OPS over 860.
Had a strong finish.
Yeah, that helps. I mean, other guys did it for stretches. You know, Nimmo was certainly effective when he was healthy, but he wasn't in there very much. Lindor finished strong over the last 4 months, but the first 2 were so troublesome. But, you know, Pete got it done.
And they could not hit with men in scoring position last year.
No Jonathan VR this year. Where'd he go? Chicago?
Chicago.
Swing and a miss, and Alonso down on strikes. So Stroman and VR both went to the Cubs. And who did they just get? They just got somebody else of note. Oh, Seiya Suzuki.
That's right.
He has one
5-year contract.
He has one of the 2 best quotes of the spring. They said, "Why did you want a 27?" And he said, "Mike Trout, I love you." Here's Robinson Cano, who flied out to left his first time up. Cano's now 39 years old. Missed all of last year, suspended. Performance enhancing drugs, second time around. Faced his team, faced the media this week. And the media tried to ask, I don't know, about half a dozen times, why, when you've already been suspended once, would you do it again? And Robbie really didn't want to answer that question.
Yeah.
He said, "I apologize to everybody. It was a big mistake. I'm going to try and win back the fans." But there are some things you just don't want to address, I guess, if you're in that situation.
A large self-inflicted wound, because his legacy as a player before these positive tests was without a doubt. He just thought of him as one of the best hitters of his generation, a natural, pure hitter, maybe the best swing in the game for a half dozen years. And that's all in question.
Well, he was on a Hall of Fame path.
Yep.
I don't think there's any question about it. And he goes down on strikes and a high fastball, but now you have to call into question how much of that performance was enhanced, right? I mean, the reason they call it performance enhancing drugs is because it enhances your performance.
Yep.
So how much of what he has accomplished in his career has been legitimate and how much is not? And that question will always linger with all those guys.
Yeah.
Yes. It is earned the name of the steroid era. And
yeah, but we're past the steroid era now.
We're supposed to be past it, but it's a stigma on the game.
What's interesting about Cano and a lot of the guys who've been caught in the last few years is that they're all getting caught using old school steroids, which makes you think that they thought that they would be masked in some fashion. However, they're taking them, I don't know enough to speak intelligently, but I know that that's part of the deal. Clearly, they have unmasked many of these players. Kisner catches a foul pump up by Escobar. It's a 1-2-3 inning for Drew Verhagen. It's 4-1 Cardinals after 4. On the majors presented by Citi, we mentioned it earlier, the big deal today, Trevor Story taking a $140 million deal to go to the Red Sox, where instead of playing his preferred position at shortstop, he's going to play second base. At least this year. Paul Goldschmidt leads off against Tyler McGill. Goldschmidt hit a long home run his last time up. You were saying, Ronnie, that Bogarts can opt out of his contract after this year.
Yes, he can. But remember, one of the things that happened last year for Story, he was nursing an arm injury and was having trouble throwing from shortstop. So maybe second base will be a more natural position for him.
Well, it brings up the entire debacle, which is the Colorado Rockies and their handling of their star players over the last couple of years. I mean, they not only dealt Nolan Arenado in the prime of his career, but they paid the Cardinals an enormous sum of money to take him off their hands. Story had no interest in going back to Colorado, although they seemed like they begged him over the last few weeks to reconsider. And then they go out and they sign Chris Bryant to this enormous contract.
That just doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make any sense. Swinging 3-0 in spring training?
Yes. You didn't get the edict? Oh, there it is, Arenado and Bryant. The unwritten rules are gone, Gary, this year. It was part of the agreement.
Bryant got 7 years, $182 million. And he's a good player. That's ball four to Goldschmidt. But is he better than Nolan Arenado? Chris Bryant?
No.
No, right?
I think that if you're being completely honest and you're looking at all the free agents, he would have a question mark attached to what kind of player he's going to be in the future, Chris Bryant, because of some of the injuries he's had to go through. His performance has not been up to the MVP Rookie of the Year level that he had early in his career, in my opinion.
I believe we have our first pinch runner.
Oh, we do. Showing his stripes, too.
Cardinal stripes. That's Juan Yepez. Actually, they have two number 36s on their roster. So it's either Juan Yepez or Scott Hurst. Okay, I'm told it's Yepez because he has his name on his back.
You guys are like great detectives.
That was the dead giveaway.
Elementary, my dear Watson.
Goldschmidt walk or hit by the pitch?
I don't know. I didn't see him get hit. Did he?
I thought it was a walk.
Yeah.
He could have got hit, but you know what? Doesn't matter.
It's spring training. That's right.
Once.
Oh, that's okay.
There's Yepez.
I was just going to say, how do you spell that?
That's Stubby Clapp, by the way, the first base coach.
There you go.
I had to ask the Cardinals PR guy before the game whether it's Yepez or Yepez, but he goes by Yepez. O'Neill pops one up shallow right. Jankowski's going to have to get there, or can McNeil? Nope, neither one. McNeil was playing way over on the other side of second base in the shift, and Jankowski was too deep. And so it winds up being a bloop single for O'Neill, and the Cardinals have two men on.
So the whole ball game, the wind has been blowing in, and now all of a sudden it kind of shifted a little bit to blowing from left field foul pole to right, and that just carried that ball away from Jeff.
And we're going to get another pinch runner. Let's see if it's another duplicate number.
84, Gary.
I've got Alec Burleson.
I got 84.
Now the question is his nickname Rabbit?
There you go. My thought, because we were talking about basketball, was Tom Burleson.
Well, Tom Burleson was 7'4", so you know.
I remember the Red Sox in the 75.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yes.
Right. The Rabbit.
Shortstop.
Rick Burles. All right, 2 men on for Arenado, who struck out and fly to center. And he hits one sharply. Lindor with a gorgeous stop. Out at second. They're going to go for the man at third. Nicely done. 6-4-5 double play. All started by a brilliant backhand stop by Francisco Lindor.
Well, Yepez hesitates here when the ball's hit. He's kind of hesitated to run. That set up the heads-up play by McNeil to go to third. Now there's no one in scoring position. Well done.
Beautifully executed. I mean, you got to think on your feet on a play like that, right? As a second baseman, you know, 99 times out of 100 you're throwing the ball to first.
Well, the play's in front of you, and McNeil's had he showed that he's got the good sense of the field.
Get another pinch runner. Brendan Donovan is now on at first base. There's Brendan with the other mitt. And Carlson strokes one to the left field for a base hit, so that play by McNeil, at least for the moment, saved a run.
Sure did. Now here's the Yepez at second. Now just a bad read on his part. There was no. I felt that it was a long hop, that there wasn't going to be a line drive caught in the air. That little bit of hesitation, and McNeil showing tremendous heads up.
Could he have forgotten that there was a runner at first base? Could that have been the hesitation rather than the line drive versus ground ball question?
You're not supposed to make those kind of mental errors, Gary.
No, just speculating. I try not to make those mental errors, Keith, but you know, none of us is perfect.
But you know, it does open up a discussion, though, that the Mets have been working a lot on fundamentals, and they've had some really serious workouts with under Buck Showalter.
We get our fourth pinch runner of the inning, Lars Nootbaar. You remember him?
Yes.
Oh, yes, we
that
do.
Great catch he made at Citi Field.
Off Pete, right?
Yep.
Took a home run away. Well, Lindor had a great defensive year last year amidst all the strum and drang about his offense, and this was a fabulous play.
Interesting on some of those plays, those good shortstops get their eyes the same level as the bounce of the ball.
Two out and two on for Harrison Bader, who's hit the ball on the ground twice. And he lines this one to right. Jankowski's right there to grab it, and that retires the side. Helped out by some sparkling defense. McGill throws up a 0 in the fifth, halfway through. 4-1 Cardinals.
From St. Petersburg, Florida, here is New York's new National League Baseball team, the New York Mets.
Hello, everybody. I'm Lindsey Nelson at Miller Huggins Field in St. Petersburg, Florida, where the New York Mets are in the midst of their very first spring training season. We have here young ball players that you haven't heard about, veteran ball players that you know very well. We have a famous coaching staff and a famous manager, and here they must all be blended into one competitive unit to represent the biggest city and the oldest league in the majors. The New York Mets representing the National League in New York.
A very smooth Lindsey Nelson with a rather choppy video presentation at the first Mets spring training game in 1962.
That was a brilliant open by Lindsey.
He was special. Nick Wickren is on to pitch for the Cardinals, and they've got an entirely new defense around him.
See his numbers from last season. We remember Wickren when he pitched for the Marlins early in his career.
First 3 years with Miami, last 3 years with Cleveland. Former Purdue product, where he was a battery mate of Kevin Plawecki. Marcana up for the second time, and he hits one just foul.
I got a question for you, Gary, because you are the only person I know that would know the answer to this. We were talking about our ages. This is our 17th year.
It is.
Those announcers, Lindsey and Bob and Ralph, how old were they in '62?
How old were they?
Yeah, about.
You're going to force me to go on the iPad here.
No, do it. Use your gray
I don't know
matter.
about Lindsey. Lindsey was a little bit older, but Murph, I think, was in his 30s.
Wow. Oh, wow.
And Ralph was probably in his late 30s, right? Because he retired in '56. He was young.
So
he
when
was
they were
probably 35.
So when they were no longer a trio, they were younger than we are.
Oh, yeah. Oh, for sure. Well, Lindsey went to San Francisco, and of course Ralph and Bob stayed for many more years. Murph worked through 2003.
Yeah, Lindsey Nelson for me was all about Notre Dame football on Sunday morning, 8 o'clock in the morning in San Francisco.
He also did the Cotton Bowl every year, didn't he?
Yep.
Well, the whole conceit of putting together that broadcast booth, because when they hired us, we all had Met connections, right?
Yes.
Strike to recall, and Can is out. Well, there were no Met connections in 1962 when they were putting together the broadcast team. So what they wanted was a nationally known announcer, and that was Lindsey. A guy who had been doing baseball every day, and that was Murph. He'd been with the Red Sox and the Orioles. And a noted National League star, preferably one who wasn't a Giant or a Dodger, because they didn't want to be associated with the Giants and Dodgers, although they certainly respected their legacy. And Ralph was the biggest star there was. So
that's pretty cool.
7-time home run champ. Okay, we have the definitive numbers now.
Okay.
In 1962, Lindsey was 43, Ralph was 40, and Murph was 38.
Wow. I'd like to know how many guys applied for the job.
Probably everybody in the country.
Gosh.
I don't know if they contacted Vin Scully to try and get him to come back to New York, but I know that at one point Scully was pretty close to coming back and doing the Yankees after Mel Allen retired.
Wow. Blasphemy.
James McCann has the only RBI for the Mets today, and an up-and-in fastball from Whitgren has him down in the count 1-2. I'm going to give you the Cardinals defense. We're not going to show it because we don't have enough cameras to show it all, but Ivan Herrera is now catching. Juan Yepez is playing first. Second base is Nolan Gorman.
That's a good shot.
Anderson Tejada is the shortstop. Brendan Donovan is at third. Alec Burleson in left. I'm going to run out of inning. Tejada makes the play, and it's off the glove of Yepez, who did not look very sharp trying to catch that ball. And McCann is on at first. And so we have reached phase 2 of our first spring training telecast.
Did you get the right fielder?
I didn't get to the outfield yet, but I'm going to do it momentarily. Alec Burleson is in left. Scott Hurst is in center, and Lars Nootbaar is in right. Who's the error on?
Shortstop. Sailing throw.
Agreed.
Got to come off the bag.
I agree. Even if he comes off the bag, Garrett, and he makes the catch, it's still, to me, the throw took him off the bag. It's still an error.
It was Jankowski who hit the ball hard his first time up, lined out to right field.
Ball just got away from him.
Kind of aimed it over there to first, didn't he? Nerves still play a part in spring training.
Yeah, especially as a young player trying to make an impression. Jankowski got to play for the Phillies last year, and that was big for him. He grew up in Lancaster, PA, which is close enough to Amish country that Travis says that there's at least one horse and buggy that drives past his house every day.
Wow.
Yeah, still lives there. Anyway, he grew up a Phillies fan, big Chase Utley fan. So he got to play for the Phils last year. That's a double play ball. Tejada takes it to the bag. And another bad throw, and this one can't be handled either.
Wow.
Oof. Another mistake by Tejada. No error there because you can't assume the double play, but boy, it sure looked like one.
He did everything right, but the throw. Didn't execute the throw, and that was they tell you, he threw a bullet over at that first baseman. That would have been that would have scared me.
He just spiked it too.
Oh boy.
Oh, and that caught Yepez too.
Oh, he lost the footwork.
Yep. He tripped himself on the back.
That's called rush, just not taking your time. And that's a youthful mistake.
So now Jankowski, who can steal the bases at first. Jankowski has always been speedy, but he's had so many injury problems, including a foot issue a couple of years ago. He's broken both wrists. Never been able to get much traction after being a first-round draft pick by the Padres.
I'm wondering in the course of the year, Gare, you know, when you have a DH, I always liked, I think it was La Russa that got 2 leadoff hitters to hit 9 and 1.
You know, we were talking about this earlier, Keith. I know you've had an issue with putting the big bat in the number 2 spot in the order, but it seems to make more sense if you have a DH.
With the DH, absolutely. And I think the more the reason, if you've got 2 leadoff type hitters to go 9-1, and then you got your big bomber coming up, it makes perfect sense.
Got all that speed, right?
Yep.
Nimmo is struck out and lined out, and he takes a changeup outside 2-1.
I've always felt if there had been a DH in the National League when I played, how many more RBI opportunities would I have had over the course of my 17 years? And
yeah,
I think quite a few.
The aggregate of all that.
Yep.
Yes.
But would you have wanted to bat second to get those RBIs?
That would have been like a harpoon in my heart. The third hitter was such a, you know, third and cleanup was it, right? Growing up as kids, right?
And yet, the analytics will tell you that the most RBI opportunities are presented to the 2 and 4 hitters, not to the 3 hitters.
Except the first inning. First inning's a tough one.
Two and 2 to Nimmo.
Oh.
And the first baseman Yepez was playing behind him, and that's a ball.
Oh boy.
Yepez, for some reason, I don't know why he would play behind Jankowski on a 2-2 pitch, but he had moved behind him, and when Whitgren turned to throw, his first baseman wasn't there.
Now, Gary, you were talking about not knowing maybe that how many outs there were on a double play, that odd double play last inning. Maybe the first baseman Yepez thought it was a full count.
He was involved in both of the plays, by the way.
He's been everywhere, man. And Nimmo gets jammed and fouls one back.
Great crowd here. I know St. Louis travels so well, but this place is packed for a first game.
A lot of blue and a lot of red on a gorgeous Sunday afternoon. 78 degrees.
Cardinals just trained, what, 35 miles south of here?
It wasn't that long ago when there wasn't that many teams over on the East Coast.
That's
Remember,
right.
There was a lot of travel. Now there's a whole bunch of teams that are within shouting distance.
Well, you got the 2 in West Palm and the 2 in Jupiter.
That's right.
Astros and Nationals in West Palm. I still have not been to that ballpark.
I have not.
I've driven by it.
We don't do any road games in the spring, and I've been to Jupiter plenty of times, but I've never made my way to the, what do they call it, the ballpark of the Palm Beaches.
We haven't done road games in a while, Gary, anywhere.
2006, I think, was the last time we did a road game in spring training, but I take your point. No games on monitors this year, Ronnie.
Oh.
It's a refreshing change, let me tell you. We went to Washington last year. Remember that?
That's right.
Yeah, we did. September.
The great experiment.
Yeah, our truck people weren't very happy with that.
They were shunned.
Remember when we went to Stanford to do the games and everything was a second behind?
That was not a thrilling event for me.
That was not good. Long turn at bat here for Nimmo. But all of that will be shoved into the rearview mirror.
We're back on the road again.
Open the season on the road.
Yes,
we'll
we
be
do.
in D.C. on April 7th.
Yep.
Start in Washington and Philadelphia before the Mets home opener on the 15th.
When are you going flying in there, Gary?
I think I'm going to drive.
On the 6th?
Yeah, I'll drive the night before, then I can drive to Philly and drive home.
I've got to get Haji up, so I'm getting Haji up the 4th, get him acclimated, then I'm going to get on an airplane to Baltimore and then get the car service to D.C. on the 6th.
You're not bringing Haji on the first road trip?
I can't bring Haji on the road.
Well, it's not that you can't, it's that you've chosen not to. I mean, they have, dog sitters and dog walkers in every town.
Haji can have the house to himself.
Just tell him not to try to cut the roses. Ninth pitch of the at bat coming to Nimmo. And there'll be a 10th. Was it last spring that Luis Guillorme had the 22 pitch at bat against Jordan Hicks?
Jordan Hicks. And that was Jordan's first outing coming off of elbow surgery.
Right, and they allowed him to foreshorten the inning.
That's right.
In deference to that. Well, Nimmo's not even halfway there yet. And a two-hopper for Gorman. And Yepes catches this one. An adventurous inning for the Cardinal first baseman. But the Mets don't score. 4-1 Cards after 5. Sports Radio's Drive Time duo bring their unique take on New York sports. Carton and Roberts, presented by Grubhub, simulcasting live every weekday from 4 to 6 p.m. only on SNY. Anderson Tejeda leads off against Tyler McGill as we go to the 6th inning. Third inning for McGill after 3 innings for David Peterson. I mean, this is the way it used to be back when Ronnie was pitching, that you go 3 innings in your first spring training start. But that's long since gone by the wayside. But now with this shortened later spring training, here we are again.
You know what I remember, Gary? Game 1, St. Petersburg, Al Lang Field. It would be Seaver against Gibson when I was a 20-year-old kid.
Really?
21. Yeah, they'd both go 3.
Yeah, you go 3 a couple of times, then you'd get into 4+, depending how it went, 5, and then you wanted to get yourself to anywhere between 75 and 90 pitches. Then the adrenaline would take over.
So, Ronnie, I don't know if you've gotten a chance to talk to a lot of these guys, but you've gone through shortened spring trainings before. When you're uncertain about when it's going to start, how do you ramp yourself up properly so you're ready to hit the ground running?
It's really hard to ramp yourself up. You really have to be in a position that you can throw almost 80+% of your natural ability right off from the start. But talking to some of the guys about how they got ready and how I got ready in '95 with the shortened season with spring training, is that you end up getting the catcher you're going to use, and it could be anyone from a kid from college to a friend, and you get someone to stand in the box as a right-handed hitter or a left-handed hitter, and you start to work through some of those hitters that you're going to face during the course of the year, whether it's Soto, whether it's Acuna, whether it's Albies, and you start to just think about pitch sequences, combining your pitches, because a lot of times if you have a long spring training, you'll just come in and just work on your fastball first and then incorporate more pitches. But on this shortened one, you've got to have everything going pretty quickly and be ready to go.
You know, it's funny you say that. I was here on, I guess it was Wednesday, when they had a simulated game, and Scherzer pitched and a bunch of the other guys. And I remember the days when pitchers would come to camps, start working on their fastball, and then gradually add on their other pitches. The backdoor sliders, the changeups, I mean, just from the very first inning of the first simulated game, it was stunning to watch how prepared these guys are.
We always felt that you had to throw your fastball a lot to get it back. You know, you had to repeat it often early in camp to get that velocity. And once you got the velocity, then you had the arm speed that could disguise the curveball, get that spinning, disguise the changeup. But the arm speed had to be there.
You know, and as a hitter too, the one thing I regret, I probably should have taken BP maybe, you know, twice a week or 3 times a week in the offseason. I came cold. Trying to find your rhythm, it was easier with the pitchers working on their fastball, the gear on the fastball, and find your rhythm. It would have been far more difficult. They're painting outside corner on you, backdoor and changeups right on the get-go, and you're trying to find yourself.
Jordan Walker strikes out, so back-to-back strikeouts for Tyler McGill, so he's looking sharp in his 3rd inning of work.
The one thing I would have changed in my career is I would have lived in a warm weather place in the winter. That's the big thing. I don't know why I didn't.
And most guys, it seems now, live somewhere in Arizona or Florida or someplace like that, but not everybody.
That's a good point, Ronnie.
Right? I would have changed that.
I remember the first year I made enough money, 77, to stay in St. Louis full time, and it was the coldest winter in like 40 years. It was just, I mean, it was just bitter cold.
Well, in those days, you would stay in where you played because there were opportunities to make some money in the winter.
Go talk to the boys club for
oh, everything. Little league banquets to bar mitzvahs.
Iván Herrera batting for the first time, took over behind the plate in the last inning. Cardinals got all their runs and a couple of home runs. A 3-run homer by Dylan Carlson in the first. Paul Goldschmidt leadoff homer in the 3rd. Both of those against David Peterson. McGill trying to finish off a 3rd scoreless inning. And darts that one outside. He's throwing hard, 96 miles an hour. That's about where he topped out last year. First game.
First game. Oh, first game throwing 96 miles per hour.
First game, and they'll remember it forever.
Yeah.
Or not. It's ball 4. And it's a 2-out walk to Herrera, 2nd straight inning. Or 2nd time that McGill's walked a hitter with 2 out. And who do we got now? Nolan Gorman. Gorman is a guy who was among the Cardinals' top prospects.
Tons of power.
They've been thinking that with the DH in play that he might have a chance to play in the big leagues this year.
We saw him last year in spring training.
A conversation at the mound.
Well, this is probably the time where McGill might be running out of gas a little bit, although no one's up. So this is part of how you get ready for the season. You got to fight through those moments when you're running out of gas.
Peterson threw 53 pitches in his 3 innings. And McGill now at 50 in his. One more batter to get. Gorman rolls over a changeup. Tyler McGill, 18 starts last year in his first big league experience. Wasn't even on the radar when the year began last year, but quickly moved up the food chain and became an important piece of the Mets rotation for most of the year. Down to first, easy play, and Pete makes it to retire the side. 3 scoreless innings for McGill, still 4-1 St. Louis. New York Mets baseball on SNY is brought to you by Toyota. Toyota's Ready, Set, Go sales event is on until April 4th. Toyota, let's go places. By HSS, the official hospital of the New York Mets. And by Geico, switch today and see all the ways you can save. Clover Park on a gorgeous Sunday afternoon. First home game of the spring for the Mets. Next one will be on Tuesday night, 6 o'clock start. More night games this spring. Buck Showalter wants to get his guys acclimated to playing in the evening, which makes sense. Most of your games during the season are at night. Here's Jake Walsh, who's kicked around in the Cardinals farm system for half a dozen years. Francisco Lindor up for the third time. Lindor grounded out and struck out. McNeil and Alonso to follow. So the Met regulars in their first outings of the spring getting a full 3 at bats. See, that's the one you don't normally get, that you're going to get with the robot umpires. Don't catch the ball and you still get the strike.
Yeah. When's that coming, Gary?
You know, I was just about to ask you the same question. I know that they're experimenting again with it this year in the minor leagues. They've got to get the technology perfect, or at least close to perfect, before they'll institute it. But to me, what's fascinating about the eventual advent of the robot umpires is that the way catchers have been evaluated over the last decade has changed so dramatically based on pitch framing. And all of a sudden, when the robot umpires come into play, pitch framing will not exist anymore. Gorman makes the play on Lindor for the first out, and so every metric that measures the prowess of a catcher will change.
Well, I think it's going to be you're not going to fool the robot as they learn to leave your glove right there when you catch it, whether it's a ball or a strike, so that it gets a good clear look. I remember, Gary, all this moving around with the catcher's glove. I remember Frank Poli and all the other umpires telling a rookie catcher, you know, you move that glove, son, that tells me it's a ball. If I were you, I'd just hold it there.
Well, but it's not the moving, it's the framing, it's the catching it with the glove turned down or sideways so that it looks like a strike even when it's not. And you know, it's a very intricate art as McNeil grounds out, but it's one that will be unnecessary, and I think it might change the nature of the players who are put behind the plate. As long as you're able to throw accurately and strongly and you're able to block balls in the dirt, you could put a guy who's not particularly able defensively back there because you want to get another bat in the lineup.
Still going to have that. I mean, we're talking about one of the best teams with one of the best catchers, Molina, and that camaraderie and conversation between pitcher and catcher. You know, that's always going to be important.
But you know, so many catchers aren't even allowed to call their own games.
Right. Well, it starts in high school and college.
Right, so that piece is gone, and then when you take the pitch framing out of it, it just becomes more of a robotic position at that point.
Sounds like time for retirement.
Well, I think it's the one-dimensionalization of the sport, right? And that's all of a piece with a lot of the things we've seen. And, you know, there are other things that are evolving in baseball that might work in the other direction, such as, you know, the talk about banning the shift. You ban the shift, you open up more holes, you create more singles, create more base runners, less of a strikeout home run game.
Pitch clock, get the game moving a little bit.
And not only get the game moving, but keep pitchers from throwing as max effort every pitch, right?
Especially the relievers.
Right. If you have to throw a pitch every 14 seconds, you're not going to be able to do the grunt and groan thing quite the same way as if you are able to wait 40 seconds between pitches. It's like when you're in the gym and you do a set. You know, you can take 5 minutes between sets. It makes the next one a lot easier than if you take 30 seconds between sets. sinker misses to Alonso, and it's 2-2.
You got the shift on Pete. 3 infielders on the left side.
You know, I was reading in Baseball Prospectus that the number of shifts last year actually went down from the year before. It was the first time in the shift era that there had been fewer shifts than the year before.
And I believe the Mets did it more.
Yeah, well, more than they had at any point. Breaking ball catches the outside corner. Pete not throw with Greg Gibson's call, but it's a 1-2-3 inning for Jake Walsh. That sends us to the 7th, 4-1 St. Louis. Some images from the early part of spring training. Buck Showalter getting to know everybody. Jake's been nothing but smiles this spring. Put a lot of frowns on the hitters, though, in batting practice. Got to get that name just right through the fence. Dom's been red hot. Hit 2 off Scherzer in a simulated game, and then hit another one last night.
Triple.
Down the right field line. Rolling around in the corner. Out on the berm. Lots of fun times to be had on a Sunday afternoon. Only good vibes. Yeah, we need more of that. Way to cover your mouth when you cough.
Yes.
Good job.
Gotta have it.
Straw hat, always a good idea on a sunny day. Although the sun is dipped behind the clouds for the moment. Wind picking up just a little bit, blowing in from right field. Miguel Castro is going to take over the pitching as we go to the top of the 7th.
What a year he had last year. 69 games for Castro. 77 strikeouts in those 73rd innings of work. He had stretches last year, if he found the strike zone, where he was almost unhittable.
Well, you know, like I said, he's 6'4" and
6'7".
I'm sorry, 6. He's a giant, but slender, and he's a slinger. And a lot of movement on his ball. And he was told in the second half of the season to throw his slider predominantly, and I could never understand that, because he's got good sinking movement, and you can't live on your slider. You can't live on your break and stuff. He's deadly against right-hand hitters.
Juan Yepez up for the first time. Well, early in the season last year, it seemed as though Miguel was more concerned about throwing his changeup.
Yeah.
And it was a good pitch for him, but then he started overthrowing it, and I think that messed him up and really cost him some success in the middle of the year. Speaking of success, 3 scoreless innings for Tylor Megill in the middle of this game. And just momentarily, the huge right-hander, Mr. Megill, will be speaking with our rather pale-faced compadre, Steve Gelb. Steve?
I don't know where to go from there. I don't even know how to take that. Let's just move on to the interview. Tylor, 3 scoreless innings, first spring outing. How'd you feel out there today?
Felt great to be back. Good to see fans again. Yeah, just a good time. Glad to be back out on the mound throwing again.
Anything in particular you're working on right now?
Just slider command, working on a cutter, started picking that up, and then curveball. So obviously threw one today. It's pretty bad, but you know, there's no better time to work on it than now. It's what spring training's for.
When'd you start picking up that cutter?
This off season. So got it. Wanted to pitch come into lefties instead of them getting ready to hit on a fastball, tailing away. So got to respect a little bit, something coming in harder. Yeah.
Tylor, how different was this offseason for you, especially as you had a chance to kind of take in what happened last year?
I mean, like people say, once you get a taste, you never want to leave. So, I mean, it definitely increases the intensity with all your training, and I guess just staying after it. Definitely felt like, in a way, like the COVID thing with the lockout. So weren't able to talk to any of the front office or coaches, so it was back to like trying to figure stuff on my own and whatnot, and with some friends. So yeah.
I do have to ask you about that training, because And I don't know if obviously everybody didn't see the story we did last year, but you have a unique way of training in the offseason where you just throw up against a wall underneath the highway overpass, right?
Yeah.
Now, after you establish yourself in the bigs, you still doing that, or did it get a little more high tech?
Early on, yeah, I was throwing against the wall just because some people's throwing programs and whatnot didn't align. But I mean, once a couple of my other friends left out the spring training, I had to go back to the wall and go throw. I mean, I've been doing it since high school, so I mean, I like it. It's a little piece of quiet alone, just your own time, just feel everything out.
So you mentioned how it felt almost like the COVID with the COVID season with the lockdown, now the short spring. How does that change just how you try and ramp up, how quickly you try and ramp up for the season?
What's the back wind?
That was,
sorry.
You started doing a little play-by-play there, and then you trailed off. Stay confident. You had it.
So I didn't think that was going nowhere. But, no, for the most part, I mean, nothing really changed. I stayed building up. I mean, before I came out here, it was already 3 innings twice and lives. So, I mean, once I got here, I was ready to go. Nothing changed. I feel good to go 4. I mean, this is my, I think, 4th outing at 3 innings. So, I feel strong. I feel good. So, just keep it going.
Leave you with this. Obviously, the situation. The pitchers that were brought in here and the fact that there may be a bit of a roster squeeze at the beginning. What is your mentality in this camp heading into this season where, you had success at the majors, but right off the bat anyway, might not be in the cards?
I mean, whatever happens, happens. You can't get down or be bitter about it. At the end of the day, a lot of pitchers get used. So, if they decide not to put me in there or whatever, it is what it is. I'm going to stay working, keep my head up, keep going. Nothing changes, so.
Tyler, appreciate the time. Good luck here the rest of the spring.
Appreciate it, Steve. Thanks.
All right, guys, back to you.
I like what he said there. You're only in control of one thing, and that's you. And what you do, and try to be the best version of yourself on the field. It's the best attitude to take.
Interview in the dugout with Steve and the much larger Tyler McGill was sponsored by Citi.
Oh.
Brendan Donovan at the plate with 2 out and nobody on. Castro looking overpowering so far in his inning. And fastball foul back, 2-2. Miguel's now 27 years old. Came to the Mets during the season in 2020. Really put up a good year last year. Slider popped up. Cortez, the left fielder, able to put it away, and that retires the side. 1-2-3 for Castro. Begley examined the future of Tom Thibodeau, plus assess the recent performance of Jericho Sims on the latest episode of SNY.TV's digital series, The Putback with Ian Begley. Check it out now on SNY.TV. First home spring training game for the Mets, Clover Park, Port St. Lucie, Florida. Getting a little breezier as the afternoon goes along. Robinson Cano leads off against the veteran right-hander Zach McAllister.
McAllister's arm angle has dropped a little bit since he was drafted by the Yankees. Veteran right-hander. Pitched for the Cleveland Indians and the Tigers.
Had some decent years in Cleveland. They let him go in 18. And he's been with 5 different organizations since, but he hasn't been back to the big leagues since 2018. Last year had a brief time in the AAA with the Phillies organization. Robinson Cano 0 for 2, struck out, fouled out. Mets have had just 2 hits today. Canna and McCann consecutive singles in the second that produced a run. And Cano drives one to right center, and that's down for a base hit. I watched a lot of the at-bats that Robbie took in the Dominican League this winter, and he still looks like himself.
He's got the sweet swing here and still got the bat speed. Look at the level follow through on that belt-high fastball. That's the first hit by the Mets since the second inning.
Gets a nice hand from the crowd. There's Robbie.
So Cano is done. Mark Vientos will run for him, one of the Mets' third base prospects. The other one, Brett Beatty, at the plate right now.
This kid's supposed to be at a rake.
A lot of conversation when Beatty was drafted about his age, because he was drafted out of high school and he was 19 years old. And the feeling was that, you know, as a 19-year-old coming out of high school, you have less value than an 18-year-old would. But he's 22 and he's trending toward the big leagues. Last year spent half a season in Double-A.
It's a common thing around the country, isn't it? Guys who are maybe athletes that you think have a future kept back sometimes in the first or second grade.
I think it happens more in football.
Yeah.
And Beatty draws a 4-pitch walk, and so the Mets have the first 2 men on in the 7th. Our next SNY broadcast will be on Tuesday night, where the Mets host the Astros. It's a 6 o'clock start Tuesday. I can't remember the last time I did a night game in spring training.
Maybe when you guys were in Dodgertown that one night when it was freezing cold.
Oh, remember that? The night when we had no commercials?
No. I think number 98 replaced number 98 pitching, something like that.
Well, the lights will be in use on Tuesday night. Now Khalil Lee will bat for the first time. We got a glimpse of Lee last year when the Mets were short about 8 outfielders in the midst of an injury run. Lee came up probably before he was ready and struck out in his first 8 at bats. Set a major league record, but he also showed just how he can play in the outfield. He made 1 or 2 spectacular catches in the brief time he was in the big leagues. And the 1 hit he got, if I recall correctly, helped win a game in Arizona. McAllister having trouble throwing strikes. 2-1 to Lee. Khalil Lee grew up in Baltimore. Told me he's moved down to Tampa now for the first time. That's what you were talking about, Ronnie.
Yeah.
Moving to the baseball-friendly climate in the offseason. One thing about Khalil, last year he had his stint in the big leagues and obviously did not hit much. But when he went back to AAA, he had a really good second half. So it did not scar him to get off to that difficult big league beginning. That's on the inside corner, and McAllister with the sinker gets Lee looking for the first out. So 1 away now. Here's Ronnie Mauricio. And it is shocking to look at Ronnie Mauricio this spring, because the last time we saw him last spring, he was a fraction of the physique that he is showing now. I mean, he has put on, I don't know, 30, 40 pounds. They always said they felt as though that he was going to be a power hitter because of his frame once he put on weight. Well, now he's put on the weight.
Yes.
And there's every chance that Mauricio could be in the big leagues as early as this year. Still only 20 years old. He'll turn 21 in a couple of weeks. Hopped up in foul ground. And the catcher, Herrera, one-hands it. 2 out.
Well, you used to see catchers always use 2 hands on pop-ups long time ago, but now the gloves are so much better. I still love to see guys use 2 hands.
You know what I saw on that play, Keith, that is amazing? The left fielder, Burleson,
I saw it,
ran all the way in to cover third base.
The center fielder came in to cover second base as well.
Yes.
Here's Daniel Palka batting for the first time. Came in to play first base. Former Chicago White Sox.
Well, watch the left, top of your screen. Watch the left fielder coming in here to cover third. No one's there. It's vacated. Shortstop comes over. Center fielder comes in. So the Cardinals were on point defensively in that play.
Well, they were the first team in history to have 5 Gold Glovers honored in the same year. It's pretty amazing when you think about it. That's drilled to deep right center by Palka. Back goes Nootbaar, and he can't quite make the catch. 2 runs will score. Palka barely missing a 3-run homer, and Nootbaar almost made another great catch. But it's a 2-run double for Palka, and it cuts the Cardinal lead to 4-3.
Oh, Palka, watch his reaction here. He thought he had the home run.
I mean, that was into the teeth of the wind.
Yes, he crushed that ball, and Nootbaar almost got it.
I think he would have gotten it if he didn't hear the center fielder coming over.
I agree.
I mean, Palka covered that ball. Gets a 2-run double out of it to make this a 1-run game. And now Carlos Cortez batting for the first time. And the curveball down. Ball and a strike. Here's the catch that Nootbaar made last year.
Well, that was a clutch catch off the bat of Pete Alonso. A little highway robbery.
At a time when the Cardinals were just starting to put together that 17-game winning streak. I think the Mets were the 3rd, 4th, and 5th maybe wins for them in that stretch.
Yeah, it started on September 11th and ended on September 29th.
17 straight wins.
I mean, the Cardinals have been around, what, 130 plus years? 14 had been their record.
Well, Lars is going to have to do a few more things if he wants to have that candy bar named after him, but that was certainly a feather in his cap. And Cortez pops one foul. This will come back out of play. Carlos Cortez batting for the first time. He's got a little Lee Mazzilli in him, in that he's a natural left-hander who, when he was 8 years old, taught himself how to throw right-handed. And so when he was coming up through high school and college, he played at South Carolina. He was able to play second base because he learned how to throw right-handed.
Wow. Huh.
Says he doesn't need to do that anymore, but it's in his back pocket. That's it out to right center field. Nootbaar closing on it, and he slides, and he makes the catch.
It's like a vitamin, one a day.
Cortez gets Nootbaar'd. Let's get 2. They're down 4-3. All the latest Mets and Yankees spring training news, first sigh of the year, and insight from our baseball insiders on Baseball Night in New York, presented by Tri-State Cadillac Dealers, weeknights at 6 p.m. only on SNY. We need a Keithometer.
Yes, that's one.
That's the first sigh of the year. Somebody in the truck want to keep track?
Yeah, Russ will take count. Russ got it.
I mean, it only took 7 innings.
Well, you said you weren't going to do it this year. That was.
I what? No,
did he
not.
really?
No. There's too many kids that are counting on me to do it.
What would people talk about? The Cardinal fans are nuding because Lars Nootbaar is coming to the plate. Sean Reed-Foley's on the mound for the Mets.
Remember, Sean Reed-Foley last year did a nice job. There's Nootbaar, 21. We had some multiple inning appearances for the Mets last year.
Yeah, he's the guy who would come up, throw 3 innings, and get sent to the minors the next day because, you know.
He threw too many innings.
And that brings up an interesting question about roster management and how that's going to work this year. You have the triple whammy of short spring training, so pitchers may not be quite as ready as they would have been otherwise. You've got a limit of 13 pitchers on your staff. That's a new rule.
Right.
You can't have that 14th pitcher. And you now have a rule where you can't option a player to the minors more than 5 times in a season. And there were some guys who were double-digit option last year. So that creates a little more of a logjam for front offices. And if they don't put the extra inning rule back with the runner at second base, which they're talking about right now, that's over the bag, and Nootbaar's got himself an extra base hit. Chase toward the corner by Plummer. Nootbaar turns on the Jets. He's going to try for 3. Blankenhorn makes the relay throw, and it's not in time. Nootbaar has a triple.
Fan favorite.
The legend of Lars Nootbaar just continues to grow. He didn't wear 21 last year, did he?
No, I don't believe so.
He had some number in the 60s.
Got a breaking ball there, looked like.
68 last year with the runner at second base, which they're talking about right now. That's over the bag, and Nootbaar's got himself an extra base hit. Chase toward the corner. Probably didn't need to hear me the second.
Was there an echo? So the Mets bring the infield halfway.
This is Scott Hurst batting for the first time. So anyway, the other piece, and Ronnie just pointed this out in roster management, is that last year you had the 10-day DL for pitchers, which is now going to be a 15-day DL the way it used to be. So, or injured list.
Yeah, injured list. IL.
So it creates issues about how you keep enough fresh pitchers on your staff, especially if we go back to long extra inning games, right? I mean, last year you rarely played a game more than 11 or 12 innings at the most.
Well, maybe it'll put emphasis back on getting an extra out or 2 from your starting
that's
pitcher.
Exactly what the downflow from all of that should be, is that you ask less of your bullpen and more of your starters. But we'll see. Nootbaar at third, nobody out. And Hurst swings through that high fastball, and that's strike 3. And that's what Reed-Foley did last year. He challenged people upstairs and had success with it.
Yeah, he doesn't break the radar gun, but he has a good spin on his fastball, especially up in the strike zone, and he counters that with a good split finger. Tardy.
Chased. Reed-Foley was only in 12 games for the Mets last year, but it felt like his impact was greater than that.
They worked him to death last year.
Well, he was the guy that when the starting pitcher faltered, he would come in and just keep the Mets in the game. He's got the Kimbrel hybrid motion here in the stretch.
Infield all the way in, 3 infielders on the right side. And Anderson Tejada comes up empty, and it's 1-1. Palka, Blankenhorn, Mauricio, right to left. It's cooled all the way down to 75. I brought my fleece just in case.
It was warm when I left Connecticut. It was going to have a seemed like spring is coming, but who knows.
Saw a couple of robins in Connecticut the other day.
It was low 70s in Washington, D.C. today, my friends. Let's hope it holds up.
Opening day, Washington, D.C., April 7th. On the inside corner of strike, 3-2. That's a 4 o'clock start, right? The opener.
4:05.
Yes. And the Mets opener is now at 1:10, as it traditionally is.
Great.
What had originally been a night game.
Give him another one.
Of course, they had to reschedule the first week of games, a couple of doubleheaders, and 3 days tacked on at the end of the year.
Cream butter.
And that's inside, ball 4. So runners at the corners now.
The Mets are going to have 140 Sunday starts during the season, right, Gary?
Everybody is.
Everybody.
Because of the national TV deal with Peacock, they're going to play Sunday morning games.
Well, that's going to go over well.
So nobody can start their Sunday games before 1:30. So every East Coast team has had to move.
By morning, what time do you mean?
Like 11:30, I think.
That's borderline. That's a little rough.
Well, you're not going to have to go to those games.
You don't have to play at them.
Those are exclusives. Those will be days off for you, Keith.
I was talking about playing. That would be a little rough.
It'd be a little rough for you at any time of day right now.
Like a B game.
Speaking of which, how's your hip?
My hip's okay. It's much better. I was in a lot of pain.
Everybody needs to know that you had a hip replacement.
Yeah, my left. And it's going on its 7th week, and the pain is gone. It still gets sore. I got a lot of rehab to do, but it's so much better, Gary. Thanks for asking. I'm not going to be able to keep up with you after games when you walk into the taxi.
You never could. That's helped the middle on a base hit for Jordan Walker. That'll bring in a run. Nootbaar is in to score. So Jordan Walker tacks on a run for the Cardinals, and it's 5-3.
You got a high breaking ball, belt high.
Oh, you're fired.
So Sean Reed Foley giving up a leadoff triple, a 1-out walk, and now a run scoring hit. 2 on and 1 out. And now the catcher Ivan Herrera bats for the second time. Well, we have some inside photos of the post-surgical Keith Hernandez. What happened to your tooth?
Are we going to see the ice machine? Are you bringing that back?
Oh, the ice! Remember that?
Yes, my knee.
That was big. Hey, that ice machine.
You can't get me on the IL. I'm sorry.
Just glad to have you back in good health. Glad that you were able to, schedule your major surgery for the off season.
Yep.
Working your way back in time.
Yep. I had it by HSS. They got a new facility down in West Palm Beach. So it was outstanding.
Speaking of being back to health, I can't tell you how great it was to see Howie when he got down here this spring.
Yes.
After the health problems that he dealt with last year. Howie and Wayne were on the radio last night in West Palm Beach. Back at it again today. Day game after a night game. Howie said this is the perfect test. And he's in good spirits. His health is good. And it's just fantastic to have him back on Mets radio where he belongs.
Well, we started the broadcast about Mets culture. No more evident than Mr. Rose.
Chris Matchkowski looks like he's in mid-season form. Strike 3 called, and Herrera knew it. Was it a high splitter?
Yeah, I think it was, or a high breaking ball.
I think it was a breaking ball. Locked them up.
So Reed Foley with a couple of strikeouts here in the 8th.
That's because the walkie-talkie there is because they're warming the guys up in a far field.
Yeah, we hadn't mentioned that. You know, the bullpens are on the field here in Port St. Lucie, and the Cardinals are making use of that, but the Mets are not. The Mets are warming up their pitchers on the back field. They've got a 6-pack of diamonds right behind that those stands there on the third base side.
They might be warming up in the batting cage, Gary, with that covered batting cage just over that left field line there to the left of it.
Got to do some investigative reporting.
Well,
where's Steve?
I think you know, in today's game, you'd want your pitchers to be warming up near all your machines, whether they're TrackMans or Rapsodos or.
That's an interesting point.
Right.
And did we mention all the renovations they've made too? The whole facility, the clubhouse, folks, is off the charts. And what's beautiful about the clubhouse and changing, Ronnie talking about changing the culture.
Yeah.
It's kind of an elliptical clubhouse, and up on the ceiling, not on the ceiling, but on the wall, side walls that are close to the ceiling, it's a picture of Tom Seaver at Tidewater, and a picture of Tom Seaver in a Met uniform. Ed Kranepool, Darryl Strawberry,
Nice.
Dwight Gooden, David Wright. It's really, really spectacular.
Nolan Gorman goes down swinging. 96-mile-an-hour fastball from Reed Foley. So Sean strikes out 3 in the inning, but the Cardinals tack on a run. The immortal Chris. Night at 11 o'clock. It's Geico Sports Night. 17 years. Every night.
That's right.
11 o'clock. Got all the spring training news. Nick's hosting the Jazz. Hey, there's a basketball tournament going on too. Right?
That's right.
We'll have that.
That's a very serious look.
I'm going to time dinner around Duke, Michigan State tonight, I think.
Home 8th inning. Nick Plummer batting for the first time against Trent Baker, who was drafted last year by the Cardinals out of Angelo State University, school that produced Norm Cash, American League batting champion, and Jim Morris, the rookie.
That's right.
So, Gary, I asked the question, was Norm Cash a Texan? He was. Justisburg, Texas.
Really?
Yep. November 10th, 1933, Norman Cash.
He had that one great year when he hit, what, 360?
361 in 1961.
And then he never hit over 300 again.
Right. Led the league in hits that year, 193. On base percentage, 487. Oh, OPS he led 1.148. 41 home runs, 32 ribeyes. Oh, wow. What a year.
This is kind of big for Nick Plummer. He was a first-round draft pick by the Cardinals. That's got him as a minor league free agent. He profiles as a guy who might be very useful for the Mets at some point this season. High on base percentage last year in AA and AAA, 415 on base percentage. He's got a little power, 15 home runs, got a little speed, 13 stolen bases.
How about that year Cash had? He finished 4th, Gary, in the American League MVP balloting. You had Roger Maris, of course.
Yeah,
the 61. Mantle finished 2nd. Jim Gentile, 3rd in the balloting.
Red Sox?
Wasn't he with Baltimore?
Baltimore, that's right.
He had 141 RBIs with 46 home runs. He was a heck of a hitter.
Walked to Nick Plummer to start off the bottom of the 8th. You know, somebody pointed this out to me the other day. Roger Maris had 61 home runs in 1961, which is now 61 years ago.
Yeah.
With all the weight training, with all the steroids, with all the launch angle swings, 61 home runs is still the American League record. Never been beat. Travis Blankenhorn flies one out to left center. Back in the gap goes Hurst, and overcomes Burleson from left to make the catch. So Blankenhorn retired on a fly ball for the first down. I think Travis Blankenhorn is a guy who would have benefited from the 5-option rule last year. I said, you must have really built up the frequent flyer miles last year. He said, no, I drove my car back and forth to Syracuse a lot, though.
And how far is that drive?
That's about 4 hours.
Well, that's not awful.
Yeah. Hey, I've only done it in the winter. Every time I've ever driven to Syracuse, it's been snowing.
For basketball games?
Every single time. Never seen it not snowing. Here's Hayden Senger, who came in to do the catching up for the first time. Hayden Senger out of Miami of Ohio, 24th round pick in 2018 by the Mets. And he slices one foul.
I mean, he was just walking with his glove, and he heard the kind of the foul ball, looked up and caught it out of nowhere.
Timing. I think that catch by the fan might be worthy of a replay.
Yes, come on, guys.
Oh, we had it all the way. Very nicely done. Beer in hand. Oh, boy. Multitasking.
I got it. I got it. I really did.
Oh, I got him.
Senger gets drilled. And the Mets have 2 men on. The first pitch from Baker almost hit him. And he got him with the third one. So in a 5-3 game, the Mets have the tying runs on base in the bottom of the 8th. And Mark Vientos will come up to bat for the first time. Talk about big kids. Mark Vientos is a big dude. We've seen Vientos now for a couple of spring trainings.
Go ahead and hit a 3-run bomb. Won't hurt anybody's feelings. So Mr. Baker's.
Vientos still just 22 years old, 2nd round pick by the Mets in 2017. Last year spent most of his season at Binghamton with a smattering at Syracuse. Hit a combined .281 with 25 home runs. And while Vientos may not be as highly regarded a prospect as Beatty is, 2 guys who both play the same position, he probably has more power than Beatty. Pitch misses from Baker, and it's 2-0. 2-1. Plummer at second, Senger at first with 1 out. And Vientos hits one toward the middle. That goes through for a base hit. Plummer around third. He'll come in to score. Mark Vientos with an RBI single to get the Mets back within a run. It's 5-4.
Ball ran in on the hands on Vientos, able to muscle it up the middle. Plummer does have good speed.
Well, the Let's Go Met chant.
First one of the year.
Yep.
And it's young Brett Beatty who gets the opportunity here with the tying run at second. Beatty just 22 years old.
Fastball
pops inside. It's a ball and a strike.
Cardinals have been pitching in a lot today.
Beatty with a reputation as an all-field hitter. When you get a guy coming up the farm system with a reputation as an all-field hitter, you wonder whether at some point that gets messed with.
Yes, in today's game.
Plus, he's a big kid. You know, usually when you have a big kid, at some point they'll look to add some power, or want him to add power.
But I mean, remember when Conforto came up?
Yep.
He's about the same size, and he was an all-field power hitter.
There's just no need to rush it. Let everybody develop, and as they get more experienced, you learn to pull. He's got a quick bat. I like his bat speed.
Spits on the slider, and it's 2-2. Twelfth overall pick in the 2019 draft.
There's a guy from way back. Is that him coaching here?
A laborious inning for Trent Baker. And Beatty pops one a mile high. This one's playable for Donovan into foul ground. And that's the second out.
Get it out.
So 2 away. Tying run remains at second. Khalil Lee comes up for the second time. Lee was struck out looking by Zach McAllister in the last inning.
Yeah, it goes to what you were saying. 951 OPS there for Lee last year, Gary.
Yeah, he hit very well in AAA.
And he's got a big hole in the left side of the infield. Shortstop playing way up the middle. You can just kind of sit on a pitch on the middle away, and just all you got to do, tie ball game. Big space.
And Lee lays off the off-speed pitch, 1-1. Khalil Lee, just 24 years old. Although his major league numbers show all those strikeouts, his walk rate in the minor leagues was outstanding, which led to that high OPS. .451 on base percentage at Syracuse last year. And they're going to get another arm loose in the bullpen for the Cardinals, with Baker struggling to get the third out. And Lee pulls one down to first. And Yepes with the flip. That retires the side. Mets get 1 run, but trail 5-4 as we go to the ninth. Well, this was the morning meeting that Buck Showalter held with his entire squad. This is interesting. Not every manager does this during spring training, addressing his team like this. But I have to tell you, there's been a seriousness about this group over the first few days, even in glorified batting practice sessions, simulated games. He's joking around, of course, but not the same as in the past. There's a lot of focus that I think is a step in the right direction when you talk about changing the culture.
Yeah.
Joe Zangi will pitch for the Mets as we go to the 9th, and Juan Yepez fouls it off. We were supposed to see Drew Smith today. I don't know what happened with that. Maybe he just threw on the side. Zangi has been in the Mets organization for most of his career, although he was originally drafted by Cincinnati. Came out of Cumberland Community College in New Jersey. Born in Milford, Connecticut. Last year pitched at Binghamton, 15 appearances, did not fare well. And goes over Yepez's head with a changeup, but misdirected.
I'll get you down.
You and I saw it right out of his hand, didn't we?
Joe Zangi will try and rub up the next one a little better. A little smile from Yepez as he tries to dust himself off. Jeremy Hefner looking on. That's views David Peterson, Tyler McGill, Miguel Castro, Sean Reed Foley, and now Joe Zangi. 2 balls and a strike to Yepez. And Burleson on deck. That's line to left. Over toward the line comes Cortez, who left to play it on a hop. And Yepez out as a base hit. A lot of topspin on it. A lot of changes in the Mets coaching staff this year. Joey Cora is the new third base coach. Wayne Kirby's the new first base coach. Eric Chavez and Jeremy Barnes will be the hitting coaches. Craig Bjornson now the bullpen coach. The holdovers Jeremy Hefner and Ryan Schneider. Glenn Sherlock back for his second stint with the Mets. He and Buck go back a long way, so he was the perfect candidate to be the Mets bench coach. And there's Eric Chavez, who just seems to have brought the right level of calm to this job. Proof's in the pudding.
The right philosophy, too.
Boy, he was a good player. Real good player. Could pick it.
Played most of his career out in Oakland. And Burleson with a half swing and a high fastball. 2. 6 Gold Gloves. 260 home runs. He's got a fairly similar profile to Chili Davis, who had a lot of success as the Mets hitting coach, but I think, and the runner takes off as that ball trickles away from Singer, and Yepez down at second base. I think in the long run there was a clash between Chili's way of doing things and what the front office wanted their hitting coach to be. I think the players loved him, and they had success under him. But early last year, the decision was made to make a change, and much has changed in the Mets front office since then. And it seems as though in Eric Chavez, they've taken something of a middle ground between what Chili brought to the table and what the more analytically oriented hitting coaches last year wanted to do.
Got his little black or blue book with him. Glad not to see an iPad there. I wonder if we're going to see iPads in the dugout again this year. I wouldn't be surprised.
Well, if they're allowed, they'll be there. Blankenhorn throws out Burleson for the first out. Yepez over to third. Now back in the first inning, David Peterson got a couple of men on, 2 out, and then Dylan Carlson unloaded one. That went a long, long way. Carlson 18 home runs last year as a rookie, and now his first of this spring. Ollie Marmol, youngest manager in the major leagues this year at age 35. Infield in now, trying to choke off a run that would give the Cardinals insurance here in the ninth.
He's also the youngest Cardinal manager, Gary, since 1951, and that would have been Marty Marion, the shortstop, Cardinal shortstop.
Good pick by Singer to save a run. Well, the Cardinals have had winning records the last 14 years, 21 of the last 22. Last year, a miraculous ascension to a postseason berth, 15 of the last 22 years. And think about that. The Mets have gone 5 straight years without a postseason berth. The Cardinals have done it 15 of the last 22 years. And of course, there'll be a couple of more playoff spots available this year, up from 10 to 12.
This will be his the Cardinals' 131st season.
Popped it up, and Mauricio waiting for it to come down. And that's a big second out for Joe Zangi. He needed that. Only one man could be coming to the plate now.
Only yes.
It's got to be Lars Nootbaar.
Nootbaar sounds like a Dutch name.
On the inside corner strike. Well, Lars is from El Segundo. Went to USC. Introduced himself to the Mets last year. And now he's down on the count 0-2. Two coming, and Nootbaar pops it up. Can Beatty get there to the railing? But no. Two on the ground toward the middle. Blankenhorn can't get it, and that'll bring in a run. Lars Nootbaar strikes again. One sliding catch, a triple, a single, a run scored, and an RBI in brief work.
It's a high nothing ball there. It was just like a little spinner. Hanger.
Lars Taylor Tatsuji Nootbaar.
I'm sorry, what?
I'm just giving you his full name.
What was the
Lars Taylor Tatsuji Nootbaar.
Tatsuji?
His mom's Japanese, dad's Dutch.
Huh.
Wow.
Good call on the Dutch.
Cool,
That's
right?
Good.
Ronnie, I tell you, sometimes I don't know what to think of you.
How come you always err on the negative?
No. I mean, we all have our specialties, right? Our areas of interest. I mean, Ronnie is very invested in players who have a little Asian influence in their lives.
I have to admit.
Of course.
I have to admit. Part of the fraternity.
One and one to Hurst. Well, the Mets twice have crept back to within a run. Each time the Cardinals have been able to extend their lead. It's now 6-4 St. Louis. Lars Taylor Tatsuji Nootbaar.
What a name.
I mean,
awesome.
You talk about multiculturalism at its best.
Yes.
There's a good fastball. Where's that been, Joe Zangi? 1-2. Wearing Bobby Parnell's old number 39.
Bobby Parnell.
Remember Bobby Parnell? Popped up in foul ground. This one Beatty might have a better chance for. And he does. That retires the side. Cardinals tack on a run. We go to the bottom of the ninth. That's down by 2. TV, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter for a continuous stream of all the latest developments from spring training with behind-the-scenes video and live updates straight from Port St. Lucie. You have to be a sociable person to be on social media.
I think it's just the opposite.
If you're antisocial,
yeah.
Why don't they call it antisocial media then?
It's coming.
Ronnie Mauricio leads off the last of the ninth against Junior Fernandez, who piles a 99-mile-an-hour fastball in for a strike. Nothing junior about that.
Barrel-chested Fernandez coming in. 18 games last season.
There's a good split, and it's 0-2. Junior Fernandez, you know what his real first name is? Junior.
It is.
Junior Fabio Fernandez. 25 years old from the Dominican Republic against 20-year-old Ronnie Mauricio, who chases one. A good splitter there from Fernandez for strike 3, and that was some nasty stuff.
Wow. That was quick work.
He'll be in more than 18 games this year.
A 99-mile-an-hour fastball and 2 91-mile-an-hour splitters, and goodbye.
You know, we mentioned Flaherty in the beginning. Jack Flaherty's not going to probably start the season with the team, but also Anthony Reyes is not going to start the season. He's got some issues, labrum issues as well.
Last time we saw Reyes, he was giving up that Chris Taylor home run that ended the Cardinals season last year, but he pitched wonderfully out of their bullpen for most of the year. Now it's Daniel Palka, who drove in a couple of runs with a long double to right center in his only at bat in the 7th.
Guy's got a good arm.
Straight over the top.
Big, strong kid. Look at that, man. Muy fuerte, boy.
1-1 to Palka, who hit 27 home runs for the White Sox in 2018. Has not played in the big leagues the last 2 years. Went over to Korea and played there. Played for the Samsung Lions. You get free electronics when you play for the Samsung Lions?
You hope you do.
That's lined the other way, and Palka's 2 for 2. So Daniel Palka making an impression. Hit a long double to right center. Now a line drive to left.
Nice level swing in this high fastball. Perfect.
No, that'll get the tying run to the plate in the bottom of the 9th. Which, of course, always raises the question, would there be more than 9 innings today?
If there is, you'll hear the second sigh.
Oh, at least. Maybe the 3rd and 4th. See, now he's consciously not doing it. Here's Carlos Cortez. Cortez was robbed of a base hit. Line one to right center, and Lars Nootbaar made a sliding catch. Nootbaar's been like Roy Kent today. He's here, he's there, he's every bleeping where. 2-0. When is season 3 of Ted Lasso coming out? It's got to be soon, right?
I know. I finally saw those shows this winter.
Yeah, me too.
Oh.
I had not watched them before, but they're a lot of fun. But Roy Kent is the best character.
Yes.
Plummer on deck. Cardinals 6 runs, 11 hits. The Mets 4 runs and 6 hits. That's with only 2 more outs to play with. 2-1 to Cortez. Fernandez fires one outside. It's 3-1. Cardinals have used 7 pitchers this afternoon. The Mets have used 5. And Cortez takes it low, ball 4. And the Mets have the tying runs on base with 1 out. And Nick Plummer coming to the plate, so the former Cardinal first-round draft pick with a chance to provide some heroics against his old organization. And we have seen the yin and the yang of Junior Fernandez in this 9th inning. So here's Plummer, who walked and scored a run in the 8th inning in his only at bat. And what do we got? Pinch runner?
Yeah.
Who is that? That is Jake Mangum. Takes the fastball off the plate.
Yeah, Fernandez missing in the same spot over and over.
He likes to pound the left-handers on that outside corner.
He has that fastball that runs a little away from the lefties.
He likes to live out there.
You mean arm side run?
Arm side run, if that's what you need.
Ball on the strike to Plummer. Travis Blankenhorn on deck. Nick Plummer, who grew up in the Detroit area. Brother Rice High School in Bloomfield Hills. Double play ball to Hanna with a step. His throw is true, and the Cardinals have taken this one 6-4. A couple of early home runs by Dylan Carlson and Paul Goldschmidt off David Peterson put the Cardinals in front. Mets scratched back, but were unable to overcome that hot start for St. Louis, and the Cardinals win it 6-4. Here's your game summary. Tyler McGill, 3 good innings in the middle. A couple of hits for Daniel Palka, who drove in a couple of runs. Scoreless inning from Miguel Castro along the way. Your Cadillac game summary. Mets are now 1-1 on the spring as St. Louis wins this one 6-4. We'll come back with more from Port St. Lucie in just a moment.